Excellent. So good evening. We'll call our Select Board meeting of Monday, November 17th to order. I'm Michelle Pryor, joined by Vice Chair Anthea Brady, and members Bill McGonigal, Paris Bayani, Mike Betancourt, and Acting Town Manager Steve Delaney. We have a couple of public hearings this evening, and we're going to try to move through our agenda. We also have some committees and commissions. So we may take it on the agenda. We have no donations, it looks like. We'll hear the town manager's report. We'll invite any public comment. Then I think we'll move into some appointments. We can do some interviews for the Permanent Street Tree Committee and potentially make the Right Lock Farm appointment. And we'll see how close we get to 7:45 at that point when our public hearings are going to begin. So if you could, Steve, give us the town manager's report, that'd be great.
We have two staff appointments to report. I've appointed Joshua Canada from Woburn as the highway working foreman. His appointment would be a full-time appointment in the Public Works Department as the highway working foreman. And I would request that you waive the normal 15-day appointment period.
Move that we waive the 15-day waiting period to appoint Joshua Canada to the DPW highway working foreman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The second appointment is following regular full-time appointment, also in the Department of Public Works, a mechanical specialist, Jeffrey Tiarano from Derry, New Hampshire, as a mechanical specialist. And again, I would request that you waive the normal 15-day appointment period.
Move that we waive the 15-day appointment period to appoint Jeffrey Tiarano to the DPW mechanical specialist.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Thank you. Just a couple items on my update sheet for you. One is the Mystic School update. You have it elsewhere on your agenda. There's a supporting document relative to that, since the building has come to you, to your care and custody through the most recent town meeting. So I don't know if you want to get into that now. I want to wait till later on your agenda.
I think let's wait until later on.
Okay.
Do we expect Nick this evening?
He was invited. I'm not sure if he'll make it or not.
Okay.
But he indicated that he probably would.
If he doesn't, we'll take it up at that time at any point.
The second item is that we have, in fact, seen a breakthrough on the Morocco Culvert Project update, that there is a signed amendment and agreement to the whole project. Our contractor on the project is now in the process of tying down a sub-agreement, an amendment with the Keolis, who will perform the right-of-way work to enable the major project to begin. The right-of-way work includes some realignment of poles and other materials that are on the right-of-way. So we're pretty excited that this is getting back on track. Mark had a job meeting, I believe it was today, with several of the people involved from White Construction, our engineer, and also I believe Keolis was on the call, and a couple officials from the MBTA. So that feels pretty good, that is actually moving forward.
Do we know when we're going to have an updated schedule from?
My hunch is as soon as the subcontractor, if you will, has a timetable in place. I was thrilled that that seems to be moving as fast as it was. My fear was that would cause additional delay. We'll know that pretty soon, as that interaction between White and Keolis becomes solid. We'll have a better sense. It's all dependent on that Keolis timeline of doing the right-of-way work, which shouldn't be affected by the weather unless it's dramatic, snow and ice. They should be able to do what they need to do in the coming weeks, and then a couple of months if need be. So
Okay.
as soon as we get that, we'll get it for you.
So one thing we owe the Winchester Soccer Club is, a walkthrough, I think, and some overview of the schedule.
Yep.
So that work, and to the extent that we think Keolis's work on that right-of-way will not impact the soccer club, it'll be adjacent, but we owe them that. And that's, if that's Mark, you, myself, whoever wishes to attend, but we certainly promised that.
Okay.
And it didn't make a lot of sense to do a walkthrough without saying, someday soon the work will begin. But it sounds like it's sooner than it was in August, so that's good news.
It's a major breakthrough, thanks to everybody involved, particularly our legislators who assisted with the process. And so we were able to finally get this thing moving. So It was a team effort. We had a couple grant award notifications. One, I think you heard at town meeting regarding we're a climate leader community. The Green Communities Division of the Department of Energy Resources certified us as to be eligible for up to $150,000 to fund technical studies necessary to design municipal clean energy projects and up to $1 million via decarbonization grants to support project implementation. So that's a huge plus for the community. Every Winchester placemaking and wayfinding implementation project grant includes up to $30,000 in consulting services for this project. It relates to signage and related issues related to signage in the downtown project area. So,
And I think that
So on climate leader, yeah.
when it's talking about climate, then wayfinding. Go ahead.
So climate leader, obviously terrific, terrific outcome. I think we're in the very first set of communities, and this body, school committee, town meeting, a lot of people voted on pieces of that, but our Climate Action Advisory Committee and our Sustainability Manager really led us on that, so huge credit to them. I did have a conversation with a couple of them last week. I shared this at State of the Town, which is it's $1 million in 3-year cycles, and there's a cycle in 2026 that we want to get into, which would require us to have a project at Springtown meeting, so we don't squander that cycle, because then it's just into the next one. And Town Hall HVAC is a great project. There could be others, but I would really recommend that between our staff, town manager's office, and engineering, and capital planning, we find maybe it's Town Hall HVAC, but we don't have certainty around funding there, so maybe a smaller project as well, so that we have something at Springtown meeting to make sure we can put a project in the queue here, because we obviously want to be able to submit something that has a large decarb potential to avail ourselves of this first $1 million cycle, which expires I believe next August. So that's just a comment for you, Steve.
Would our solar arrays count? I would think the ones that we talked about at fall town meeting.
It's a good question. I don't know. Right.
So do we expect Ken to sort of be on point potentially?
Ken, town manager's office, because I think he'll need help from engineering and DPW.
Yeah.
So I think it comes from Ken, but I think it has to, and this is where I'm saying it for Steve, and hopefully the board agrees with this, that kind of rounding the wagons on this one to make sure we have maybe a big project, maybe a smaller project that we're sure we can fund, because we don't want to lose this first shot, because it's just gone then, right? So.
And it needs to be somewhat shovel ready. That's what it sounds like as well. It has to be expended.
But we have the $150,000 that we can, I think, pull now
into it
to help us get it shovel ready in the next, because we have until August, I believe. So, but Ken has all the details. But if we have 9 or 10 months, that 150 can help us get there. So.
Okay. Bill, do you have a question on the wayfinding? Okay.
I was just gonna, the wayfinding, is that the Rotary? Or is that accurate?
I'm not entirely sure that
Is that something different?
It's downtown. I'm not entirely sure if it's,
I'm not
The Rotary
positive, but I was
specific?
told it's in that area.
Okay.
and I think planning board is on point. So heads up for the select board that we had a meeting with the Waterfield developers last week, I think. And we're going to need to have a joint, so look for a schedule, sort of a meeting sometime in December. Could be in this room, could be on a Monday, could be off cycle, but we have some parking to discuss on Waterfield lot, and potentially local option on the Waterfield development. So talked with Taylor late last week after our meeting with Waterfield. So just a heads up for the select board that we're going to need to figure out some parking plans when that gets built and that parking comes offline, and then how does it come back on, because it's planning board's building to approve, but it's our parking to enforce. So we're going to get everybody caught up on what we heard and what we need to do. Probably have to take some action in the early part of the year. So, all right. Anything else on Steve's report?
No, we're good.
Okay. So it's 7:43. I think we're going to be hearing. But before we do that, is anybody here for public comment on a topic that's not part of the agenda? Come on up, please.
Todd Hewlett, 47 Everett Avenue. Todd Hewlett, 47 Everett Avenue.
Welcome, Todd.
Make it quick. I was here about 5 weeks ago, and shortly before that, met with Mr. Delaney and Mr. Toogood. Pardon me if I missed something in WinCam, but I viewed the meeting discussion about the Everett Avenue culvert, and then there was a short morning meeting that wasn't on WinCam, and then there was a follow-up meeting in the evening that I watched the whole thing of. And at no time during what was accessible to me did I understand the evolution from the board wanting this to move forward to it recommending that it not be included in a warrant. I'm wondering if I could get just a summary of what happened and what the plan is moving forward to address the problem.
Okay. Would you like to follow up with Mr. Gulick offline?
Sure.
Okay.
You want to comment here?
Normally, we don't answer, but I think we have a pretty quick answer for you, Mr. Gulick, so we'll let the town manager give a quick update.
I think the short answer is, as you and I have discussed, there needs to be additional analysis of the flows to determine what is the proper scope of a project at that location.
Okay.
That was not done. And that we've actually looked at options to get that done. And it was to your point that it really should be done, and I agreed with you. And that's kind of where we are. There hasn't been any action. We are actually active looking to how to do that flow piece to make sure it's included. So it's back kind of toward the formative stage, and I'm happy to kind of keep you posted from there if you'd like.
Okay, thank you. This problem has been there for the entire time I've lived in Winchester, 32 years. I hope someone finally addresses it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else here for public comment? No. Okay, so Mr. McGurl, would you like to come on up? Mr. Howell, I think you're probably coming to as a Board of Assessors. We have our tax levy classification hearing, so we'll open that public hearing. And then if anyone has questions on the tax levy, we'll invite those. Then we'll close that portion. We have your memo in the packet, and thank you for the information on towns that classify, towns that don't, and your recommendation. So if you'd like to maybe step us through the recommendation. And
the board doesn't make a recommendation, we just present the facts to you, it's your call. I just put in what we've done for the last 30-something years. We have such a small commercial group here in town, if you will. It doesn't seem really, I won't say it's not fair, but it doesn't seem quite right. We don't get much of a savings. The idea of shifting the rate is to give people residentially a little more of a break. But the way it works here, it's such a small nominal number, it's really not worth it, because you'd be saving roughly 5 cents on a residential tax bill per thousand, and hitting the commercial 95 cents. So it's a big number. Just that doesn't really work. They only did it once, way back in 1984, when Prop 2.5 had kind of just come out. So it's not our call to recommend anything. It's simply yours. We present you with the evidence. But if I could, if you're gonna, when you go to vote, if you vote for when you vote, if you want to keep the same tax rate, vote for a residential factor of 1. Now, it's odd because we have Chapter 110, so we actually do have 2 tax rates anyway, but it's, when you're voting this, it's for a factor of 1. Chapter 110 comes in after the fact. I believe we're the only community in the state that still does Chapter 110 with the water and sewer. So your vote would be for a residential factor of 1, and then we've had discussion of resident exemption that we weren't going to do that this year. No small commercial exemption. It's very similar to the residential one, and there is no open space here in town for us to tax at a different level. So it'd be no action on residential exemption, senior exemption, and the open space discount.
okay. Any questions for Mr. McGurl?
On commercial, none. I agree with the view expressed. With regard to residential, we had talked about that, and so you had suggested I appreciate the classification hearing is only once a year, but that we have that discussion with you kind of in March, is that right? or April for the third
Yeah,
quarter bill?
if you're really serious about it, we could talk about that and see what we have to do to promote it, have people apply, because in this town, we have about 7,000 people, maybe 6,800 people getting the exemption. We had spoken to Concord, who'd done it most recently, and they're about half the size of Winchester. They didn't give them very much time to do it, and it was very difficult for them, time-wise, because you have to vote it at this hearing. You have to vote at this hearing. You can't vote at any other time. You have to vote at this hearing for this fiscal year. So if that's the case, we'd be kind of under the gun to get it done in 1 year, but I think we could do some things to get ahead of the schedule, if you will. But the problem is we could come here next November, have done the work, and then different board members change their vote, and we don't do the exemption. So it's, we'll do what we have to do. If you voted, we'll do it. If not, we'll keep going where we are. But it's strictly your call, and this is coming from the Department of Revenue legal team. You have to vote at this hearing each year.
So you'd want us to give you a heads up in the spring after the board is set for the
Yeah,
year,
sure.
that there's still a majority to do it, and then it would be then officially voted on at the November 26th hearing to take effect January 27th.
Correct. Yeah, I can't do anything. We talked before, but maybe somehow smoothing it in the first quarter of next year. That can't be done because you have to take the vote.
Right, but most of the override, you said you might bump up the factor a bit. Most of the override would be implemented in the third and fourth quarters anyway.
The override
If
or
there is
the
one that passes.
well, no, that one I can change a little bit. I can put in for the first 2 quarters. I try to make it as even as I can, irregardless of values. But if I know things are going to go up, 10%, I can try to put it across the 4 quarters. So there's no one big whack of the bill.
And is that a discussion you can have with us of how you're smoothing the factors in?
Yeah, I don't even have to discuss it in a sense. I mean, in a sense, I do it almost every year because there's always a little something changes, and I just do my best. If I figure I'm going up 4%, I try to bump the first quarter 1%, second quarter 1%. That way. It changes a little because you got to do that irregardless of your value. So let's say you go up 10% and George goes up 5%, and I like George. I don't know you yet. Maybe that'd be the difference. But in general, I do it across the board that way, so it's smooth as we can.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? It looks like he's thinking, I'm just not sure. Okay.
I'm thinking.
Okay, that's fine. Does the board want to discuss, actually, is anybody here from the public wants to weigh in on this topic before we do some deliberation on the residential factor? Okay. So does the board want to hold the residential factor at 1 and not shift anything onto commercial? Pretty consistent with 40 years? Okay.
What would happen if we stopped doing the 110 shift on water and sewer and just made the factors themselves the same? It would take money out of water and sewer and put it in the general fund?
Yeah, the water and sewer would have to make up the difference. Water and sewer rates would have to,
It would come down on the commercial side, right?
they may, but residential would go up quite a bit because it's a $5 million Chapter 110 number, so you have to raise water and sewer rates quite a bit in the residential portion.
It's interesting we're the only town that does that, though.
Yeah, it's kind of an artifact.
What did you say?
I said at one point there were 2.
Yes.
Because the commercial rate looks visibly a little lower because of the water and
We get a
sewer.
lot of phone calls asking, is that right?
Seems like every year we have that same question, but yes. So does that change your opinion on the residential factor of 1? Just want to ask. Okay.
Only in as much as at some point we could maybe clean that up, because it would all be the same ultimately if you, but probably
Yep.
too much math to do right now.
We have water coming in on December 1st, Matt, so, okay. Want to make a motion then on residential factor?
Move that we establish a residential factor of 1 and that we take no action on the residential exemption, senior exemption, or the open space discount.
Is that a second, Mike?
Yes.
Any additional discussion or debate? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Paris, do you have one other question on residential or
It was on
senior?
CPA. We've done
Okay.
some- So just a couple of updates, because, I know obviously George is a member of town meeting, and Dan, I don't know if you sat in on it. So we did have some movement in the deferral program in terms of the income limits. That was approved, veterans as well. And then the other one was CPA, which was approved, I think, at Springtown meeting 2024, for having a low-income senior tax exemption from it. They can be, I believe, fully exempt from the CPA 1.5% surcharge. That is not available. So we've gotten that complaint that there's no form to fill out or anything on the website or information about it. So we just need to implement that because we've had some complaints around that. Because that was one of the pieces that town meeting accepted with the local option.
Yep. Okay. So maybe we can circle back and maybe for January 1, we're looking for that, if we
Yeah,
can.
I hope so.
Is
Yes.
that process similar to the process of getting the residential exemption in place too?
You have to provide gross receipts, so it's a little bit more like the senior tax programs because it's for certain income limits. So you do have to provide your income.
And as soon as we can get people enrolled, it could be whether it's the January quarterly tax or the April quarterly tax, but as soon as we can get paperwork in, we can start to grant it, right? It's not, okay.
Yeah, let's get that going.
Okay. Any other questions for assessors? Okay,
See you in March.
Thank you.
maybe. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Next up is public hearing on common victuals, wine and malts, and retail packaged goods store for Say Stella LLC, doing business as Cafe Ducali, 959 Main Street. Good evening. And so we'll listen to the applicant, and then we'll invite some public comment, and then we'll close out all of our public hearings.
Hello, everybody. Philip Frateroli, 21 Old Village Drive. You might remember that I was here last year asking for a Chapter 12 restaurant license. I'm back looking for a Chapter 15 package store license. This is something that's become possible over the last few years to have both. And we, from the beginning of this project, we were looking for a way to be able to sell beer and wine to folks who come and pick up pizzas and food to go. So this is a better way to do it, the way that the to-go alcohol COVID kind of provisions were finalized in the state. They made it so that beer and wine were exempt from that. Cocktails would be allowed. We're not asking for a liquor license, we're asking for beer and wine. There would still be a way to do it if we opened the bottle of wine and put it in a plastic bag. We think it's cleaner to do it this way, so we're here asking for a package store license. As you may know, I've been in the restaurant business for most of my life. I've had liquor licenses under my name as a manager for 16 years, and a pretty clean record. And I think there's a pretty clear need in town for something like this, as evidenced by all the letters of support that I've reprinted in case anybody wants to look at those.
Thank you. So this evening, we have both liquor license and the common victuals license on our agenda. We'll take those up, I think, as separate topics, but before we ask Mr. Frederoli anything, would anyone from the public like to comment? Come on up.
Yeah, this is the same ones from before.
You could state your name. I'll start here.
Sure. I just have a statement, it's included in there, or a little
Okay.
one-pager. Good evening, Select Board members. My name is Michael DeRose, and I'm a resident and property owner of 961 Main Street in Winchester. My property directly abuts 959 Main Street. I am here to respectfully oppose the issuance of an on-site beer and wine license to the future Cafe Ducali. My opposition is rooted in what I can only describe as a bait and switch in the evolution of this project, as I have stated before. When I was first approached by Mr. Philip Frateroli, he stated that his intention was to renovate the building for a warehouse and storage use to support his existing businesses. Later, he explained that the space would be used for pasta, baked goods, and bread production. In a third conversation, the plan shifted again, this time to a cafe bakery on the second floor, and the basement to be used as a bakery to supply his restaurants. Throughout these changing narratives, the consistent representation from Mr. Frateroli was that the business would be a cafe bakery selling coffee and baked goods, something I supported. As a resident property owner, I welcome reasonable improvements, and I believe that successful, well-run businesses benefit the Winchester community. Now, for a fourth time, I find myself in front of the Select Board or a planning committee to address another change in Mr. Frateroli's plan, to turn Cafe Ducale into a full-service bar and restaurant. In a recent Boston Globe article, Mr. Frateroli stated his intention to serve lunch and dinner service, including pizza and meal, as well as pizza, pasta, and painting classes, which clearly exceeds the permitted scope of a cafe bakery. Now Mr. Frateroli wants to add an on-site beer and wine license. A full-service restaurant with extended after-hour events, liquor service, and increased seating introduces far greater impacts to the neighborhood, including increased vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic, parking strains, noise, and overall disturbances. These impacts were never discussed, or approved by the zoning committee. For these reasons, I strongly oppose the issuance of an on-site beer and wine cafe or a license to Cafe Ducale. The approval would effectively sanction a shift from a small cafe bakery to a bar operation, contrary to what was presented to neighbors and to the town, and contrary to what was formally approved. Additionally, the town should not be issuing additional liquor license to businesses without a designated alcohol beverage control commission enforcement officer. Thank you for your time and consideration of my concerns. I respectfully ask the board to uphold the original conditions and scope of the project and deny the request. Respectfully, Mike DeRosa.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Justin McGee. I'm also a Winchester resident, but I am also a condo owner at 955 Main Street, and I'm a member of the board of directors of that condo association. The board has voted unanimously to present to the board our opposition to the current request on the part of Mr. Frateroli to again change what we understood, very similar to what you just heard, was the original intent, and now has changed what we would consider to be Mission Creek and what this particular building is going to be used at. The original contact that we had from Mr. Frateroli was back in November of 2022, just before the ZBA meeting, at which he was ultimately awarded a special permit, which was required in order for him to proceed with both the build-out and the operation of the specific business that he was asking for. The ZBA terms and conditions, order of conditions that were presented when they approved that, said that it was approved for use as a cafe bakery, and that was one of two requirements requiring a special permit. The other was that the building itself was non-conforming. As part of the approval, the order of conditions stipulated that the hours of operation, Monday through Friday, from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And additionally, that he would be required to work with the neighbors regarding parking concerns. Initially, we were sent plans a day before the ZBA meeting, which showed what reported to be the plans that were going to be submitted for the special permit. Those plans on the upper floor showed essentially a kitchen area that didn't show any specifics. It showed a partition between that kitchen plan in the rear of the building, and in the front of the building, it simply showed a counter. No seating or anything else along those lines, and also no public restrooms. The basement showed coolers, storage, work tables, preparation tables, mixers, all kinds of things that you need for a bakery. We assumed that those were the plans that were submitted to the ZBA and upon which his permit was granted. We didn't hear anything else until April, and then May and June of 2024, at which time we were again contacted by the proponent and asked if we would consider granting him an easement so that he could have Eversource install a pole with 3 single-phase transformers and high-voltage equipment on the top of it that would then serve a 600-amp service that would be required in order for him to operate all the equipment that was going to be installed in the building. We met with him. We said that we supported what he was doing up to that point, and we would be happy to try to accommodate him, but that we were concerned for 2 things. One was ultimately parking, and the second thing in terms of the easement was that we would be granting a permanent use of our property for the installation by Eversource.
So I think that as it relates to private property and utilities, I'm not sure that we have any role in that. But if
I'm
this,
not saying that you do. What I'm saying, I understand that, but this is, what I'm trying to say is, this is what has happened since then. Ultimately, we tried to work with him on that. The one thing that we asked for was that he compensate us for any cost that we incurred in the legal cost of trying to negotiate the easement request with Eversource and with himself. He refused to do that.
so,
We terminated conversations.
So-
with
I'm
him.
going to
Okay,
ask,
wait.
Chair,
We haven't heard anything from him.
so there is, okay, so I don't know how much more you have on specifically the liquor license, but one thing that's changed that's materially different for both of you with public comment is Fall Town Meeting, November 2024, approved rezoning of North Main Street. Restaurants are allowed by right. So any business owner who may have said they wanted to have a bakery or a dog cleaning business or a hair salon can now put a restaurant in that space. And the ZBA permit is they're no longer the permit granting authority.
That's not what our council said, though. Our council said, yes, they are still
Can we
bound.
narrow, so the
Planning board doesn't agree, so I'll read Brian's.
The critique from the abutters is that the ask from the applicant exceeds the ZBA's letter, right? They have certain hours.
Conditions.
Conditions. So it's a narrow question of whether these hours still bind us or not. Planning board says they don't.
Planning board says they do not,
And
and
you're
planning
saying
board says
town
they
co-
supersede ZBA.
Right.
Town council on his cell phone this afternoon says he may need to go before ZBA to have it vacated, but planning board does not agree. I can read
But it's
the chair's.
But our
opinion.
authority here is liquor. We're supposed to decide whether we believe this applicant and this location is appropriate for packaged and poured liquor. That is the question for us.
We also have a common victuals license which has hours in front of us. So if there's any question on hours, we can choose to not vote that this evening, but we do have,
Are we still hearing from Mr. McGee, or are we
I will come back to Mr. McGee in a second. Fair enough.
We do have, we'll forget the conversation up to this point. I appreciate your comments. We do have issues with the hours. That's the second concern that we have. Everything up until this point, including your granting of the pour liquor license a year ago, basically required the 5 o'clock closing time that was originally in the ZBA order of conditions. There was a question at that point as to whether, apparently his application for the pour liquor license said a 6 o'clock closing. You specifically referred to in the minutes of that meeting
Yes.
the fact that it was a ZBA requirement for 5. Now he's asking for 10. The fact of the matter is, there is only street parking, and in a previous concern that was issued, part of the license conditions was to put up no parking signs around the intersection of Russell Road and Main Street, which further limits street parking. I have no idea if that's been done. I haven't checked to find out, but that was part of the requirement that was in the September 23rd, 2024 Select Board meeting And it basically said that the hours should be 6 o'clock, should be 5 o'clock closing, and that there should be parking signs put up at the Russell Road intersections to limit the parking on the street. At the end of the day, with the change in the use of that building, it is now our concern that if our limited parking, and we have limited parking, which is why we rent the space for the town-owned portion of the parking lot at the rear of it, and that parking lot is full during the days. However, once it comes after the evening hours, then that's going to stop people from parking in our parking lot, which means that we then have incurred liability for anything that happens for somebody that is using his. They're not going to be in our building. They're going to be in the adjacent building. Slips and falls and everything else is
So-
going to be our problem. So that is essentially what our concern is. Closing hour at 10 o'clock and the vicarious liability that we will inherit.
So private parking to be enforced by you as the property owner is something that you will need to enforce as the property owners of
So in other words,
955?
we should be able to, we know we can tow people,
Of course.
okay? But so that's.
But the select board will not be engaging in that enforcement action. It's not a town
We're
street.
not asking you to. What we're saying is that by allowing this to happen, you are forcing us into the position where if we want to protect our interest, the only way we can do that is to enforce by towing cars that are in our parking lot illegally at night
You're making the
or
argument
any
that
other time.
it's a negative impact upon the abutters of the permit applicant.
Absolutely is a negative impact, not only on us, but we have the main parking lot right adjacent to his building.
And
Okay.
even if they have a potential solution, it's something that oftentimes we have to consider, but because we haven't been given any advice by council as to what the elements are for granting a special permit, so we're worried.
So we can, I think we can discuss, any other public comment on this? So I think we can take up the hours potentially separately and just continue this hearing as relates to the victuals license and the hours once we understand jurisdiction of planning board or ZBA. But this board, I think without Paris, but with John Fallon, did grant a pouring license with a closure time of 5 o'clock a year ago. So if parking impacts were okay at 5 o'clock, the adverse impact on the neighbors perhaps are, it's a shorter window of mitigation, but we can certainly vote on liquor licenses. We've done so once. Now, there's an approved pour license. There's a request to have a takeaway retail license, similar to what we had with Nouvelle Maison. I think as it relates to the hours of operation, the planning board chair would say that the zoning changes make it a restaurant by right. Nothing in the bylaw of the planning board dictates how the hours of operation. So planning board cannot specify the hours of operation, and the ZBA is no longer the special granting authority for that location. So that's the planning board chair. He's not the planner. But we can try to have that narrow question answered by town council so that we understand if that ZBA ruling has any merit at the present time with the zoning change that's in place. Because the bylaw does not specify hours, that would fall to us.
Can I speak on the hours for a second?
You may.
So in terms of the hours, a lot has changed in the last year, especially in that area. One, the zoning changed now that anybody who opens in the space across the street from us can open a restaurant through, you're right, the MSMD doesn't require hours, but in the central business zone bylaw, it says customary business hours, and clearly 5 o'clock is not a customary business closing time. Our business, in terms of the operating offerings, is exactly the same as we offered to the health department back in 2023. We've always had pizza on the menu. Since the Rossio family closed Gloria's Pizza, and since what's happened to that business in the last year has taken place, our business plan is developed, and we want to be able to offer pizza later on into the early evening, so people have options to eat safe pizza in town. Businesses develop. I mean, what we offer on day one is not going to be what we offer 2 weeks in. We're going to have to evolve as we go, and that's customary and ordinary in how business operates.
Okay.
Can I make a follow-up comment before you vote?
I'll let you have one more comment, and then I'm going to actually, then we'll just deliberate, I think. Go ahead.
There are plenty of pizza options in Winchester. I think we can all agree upon that. My main concern is that we're going to put a bar next to a family residential
There's no
neighborhood.
bar.
I am speaking.
No, there's no bar. You can't.
No, he is speaking though, Phil. It's incredibly rude to interrupt another person who's trying to make a presentation. You had your time.
He's representing my business.
He has his turn to speak, and you need to let him.
Mr. Frateroli is putting a bar in a residential neighborhood. It abuts it. It is going to affect a lot of people. People continue to come to me in the neighborhood asking, what is happening here? They don't know. They're unsure. They do not want a bar. I understand people are not here. I cannot speak for people's agendas and whether they're here or not. But I do recommend that you consider that there are families right here. We're going to have to deal with the outpouring of people at 10 o'clock while our children are trying to sleep. That's all I have to say.
Okay. There are restaurants, Nouvelle Maison can now pour alcohol. We have Restaurant de Serena is across the street from residences and apartments. They're all throughout our town, and North Main Street will probably have more of them. So I appreciate it, but I think it's just a half a block down the road is Restaurant de Serena, which has seating and alcohol, and I don't know what their hours are. So, Select Board, any additional questions for the petitioner?
So, do we have, in terms of your other restaurants, so I know that parking is an issue. I think a lot of other restaurants also are not.
I don't think there's any restaurants
You know,
in Winchester that have a parking lot.
Yeah.
Gloria's,
What's that? Okay. Stand corrected.
it's not open. I mean, but I think that might be the exception.
Yeah, I mean,
But they have
Thea's
what?
has a capacity of 300. We don't have any private parking. We opened a restaurant in East Boston that's next to a condo association on both sides. That was the concern when we opened that restaurant, that people are going to park there. In 8 years, nobody's ever parked there. You can put signs up. People aren't going to park when they're afraid they're going to get towed. Especially at night, there's ample parking all the way down Main Street.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So, Mike, any questions?
No, I think that the reality here is that we are going to see some changes in this area along Main Street, and that was by design, by the planning board, by town meeting, and we know of quite a bit of changes that are happening in the near future, and so this is one of them. This was kind of an intended outcome. I'm sympathetic to the abutters and the neighborhood there, but also knowing the Fraterolis and how they conduct their business. They've been a great partner with the town, and I think if there are problems, that they will be resolved by the business owner before they come to us, right? So we're not going to be an enforcement authority here. So I would certainly support the request. The hours, I think, is another question. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to recommend we split the votes into the cordials retail, the two alcohol licenses, and potentially defer the hours until we have some clarity from legal as to what the authority would
I
be.
want everyone to feel, sorry, Andy, you were going to speak.
No, I'm just looking at if, and it might be different as printed, but on it says the hours during which alcoholic beverages may be sold are, and that is.
And Bill,
Correct,
that's the point you're raising, right, in terms of how it interacts with the ZBA application, is primarily the hours?
So I've worked on matters where there has been changes in zoning. And if a property gets a special permit under prior zoning, that permit has still applied, even after they've redistricted and rezoned and changed things.
But the part-
So I'm not done, please let me finish.
I'm just
So
asking you to
here,
clarify.
I think there's multiple issues that need to be answered by council. One is the continued application of the ZBA decision.
Okay.
Even though it's been rezoned, that doesn't mean necessarily that the ZBA conditions are now mooted. These could still be pending and enforceable against this property unless and until Mr. Frateroli applies for a revision of the special conditions, which is a thing I've seen done many times in similar situations. On top of that is the fact that the question of introducing a pouring license is that a material change in the use, because the initial special permit was a use permit. And if the use is changing in a material fashion, that might also need to be reconsidered by the initial permit granting authority. Mr. Frateroli might then have two different ways to solve this problem. Go back to the ZBA and have the ZBA reconsider and revise the conditions that they imposed upon the property, or he reapplies for a brand new permit under the current zoning laws, which would go to the planning board. And either way, that resolves all of these questions. And until I have the answers to them, I'm not comfortable doing anything beyond what we've already done in the past, because that was within not only my zone of comfort, but what was fully vetted by legal counsel. And here, it seems like we've got a couple different answers, a couple conflicting views, and I want to make sure that the North Main Street rezoning goes forward without these sort of ambiguities. And unfortunately for Mr. Frateroli, you might just be subject to having been a little too fast trying to get this permit when you did. But it's like, let me finish, Phil. As far as I'm concerned, the law is the law and the process is the process, and it has to be followed. And that's even more important when we are beginning to strike out to rebuild this area of town. We got to do it right.
Okay, so I appreciate everything Bill just said. I think the easiest thing is it sounds like what Jay is saying is you need to go vacate the ZBA permit. I wasn't on this.
No, he said he has to go back before the planning board, actually. And the planning board could host within 4 weeks.
I don't want to shortcut the process here. I am supportive of moving forward with this. I would like to follow. If the process is you need to go in front of the planning board, I would just ask you to do that and get the by right approval under the Main Street multi-use district.
For the change of hours?
I guess it's two things. It's a change of use and it's a change of hours. I hear what you're saying.
In terms of the change of use, so under the MSMD, coffee shop, bakery, cafe, coffee, baked goods, pizza is a baked good, and light meals going to be a light meal for on-site or takeout
Maybe
consumption.
it's not a change of use.
I don't think that's a change of use. I mean, that's exactly
That's a discussion for the planning board.
But
for you.
you currently have conditions set upon your property. And there have been disputes as to what a cafe bakery meant. That's why you came to us before, because there were authorities in town hall that said that did not extend to selling liquor just in bottles, not even serving it.
not selling things retail.
So this,
Exactly.
Correct.
And
It's hard for a bakery.
Yes, but now you're going another step, and is a cafe bakery, does that use include open pour? And I don't know the answer to that, and it's something that we should certainly know the answer to.
I think it's not going to be very hard for you to go to the planning board and get this approved. Like, I'm just going to suggest that. If they were given the Main Street, or the town meeting gave them the zoning liberalization. So I think if that, I think would address the points you raised, Bill.
It could. I mean, I don't know if the planning board can or needs to vacate the ZBA.
So it just sounds like we need a clear answer from council of what you would need to do in order to clear up the confusion around the transition to the
I think that's
new
the
district
key
after.
point. So when I look at the project, I'm very supportive of it. I think this part of town desperately needs it. I live in Precinct 8. I go to that office all the time for medical services. My daughter goes to daycare across the street. I'm in that area all the time, almost every day. Mm-hmm. This area needs this project. I think it does a lot of good. I think there's a lot of parking on the street. And everyone I talk to in Precinct 8 says the same thing, and they're waiting for it to open. So I'm supportive of the project. I think clearing up some of this paperwork, I know it's another few weeks. I think that's the right way.
Notify the neighbors then, because the nature of that condo building, it costs like $900 every time I have to come in front of a.
You might have to.
Well, can we-
That's
but
what
we
law
can-
requires, you have to do it, Phil. Like,
Can
that's
we
just the way these
continue our
things work.
hearing? Because the notification is for the license. so
I
can't we
would
just
continue the hearing.
Continue the hearing and he wouldn't have to.
Correct. I was planning to continue the hearing. not close it, our public hearing,
That's what
correct,
the
on this
notification's for.
topic.
He's asking, does he have to notice a new hearing for the sake of a planning board reissuance or revision or whatever it might be? And
Well, technically, I'm not asking the planning board for anything because everything's already existing.
Yes.
You're asking if you comply with the new overlay district?
Restaurant, it's allowed by right.
Yep.
I have the
then
planning
what-
board
what's
chair,
town
like,
council's
texting
view
me.
here, that we need to
Council's.
vacate this or something?
I'm not sure the town council's not available. We couldn't dial him in. Let's get our answers, and we will continue this hearing. And let's try to get you an answer in the next 2 days as to whether or not planning board has any bearing on this, given that it's allowed by right.
if you speak to, I would like town council to give us a written opinion on this, because this is something I am confident will come up again.
If this is going to be a continued hearing and a continued issue, maybe directing this to Karis and Murphy has as well.
Yeah,
Second that.
I will
Okay.
do that.
Yeah, because our next meeting isn't until December.
Correct.
So the question is specifically, does the applicant need to do anything about the ZBA opinion?
Correct. Go before the ZBA to vacate it. Does it still
Again,
hold?
that's not asking them for an affirmative. That's to remove something that's on the record. So,
It
Correct.
happens all the time.
yeah.
You wouldn't be the first.
We can still vote conditional on the,
I don't think people are prepared to vote that tonight. Are people prepared to vote conditional on that clarification, or we want to just take it up at the next instance of this public hearing?
We'll,
Go ahead, Nancy.
we'll meet on the 1st. I think we'll have this cleared up before that.
Yeah.
We'll meet on Friday,
Yeah.
too. If it's cleared up with a decision that this is under the planning board and nothing needs to happen, we can, right,
Okay.
sooner than
Yeah.
that.
I appreciate the concern Bill's raising, which is that we don't want to end up in a world where, for some, whatever legal technicality, the ZBA opinion is still alive. So let's just clear it up.
I
and let's move
understand
on.
in places where the zoning changed, but this was upzoned. So it's not as if something that was allowed
Is disallowed.
would be disallowed. This is adding more rights to the property.
I think that's a very logical argument. I think, like, as a board, it would just be helpful to have town council tell us that.
Does ZBA always operate on logical arguments?
No. That's,
I don't think this is a-
that's why we have to be careful about these.
I don't think this is a long delay.
Huh?
Yeah.
I don't think this is a long delay.
No. I mean, do you have a timeline for opening right now? Because
No, I just,
it was over a year ago.
if I can avoid having to pay almost $1,000 every time I come here, I'd like to do that, but.
We're continuing our hearing. It sounds like the planning board is not a hearing, it's just a clarification from town council.
Yep.
So there's no hearing there, if that's what you're asking.
Unless they do need to have a hearing. to
Unless they do need to have a hearing, which would be their decision.
vacate the prior conditions.
ZBA.
Yeah.
Okay. Lack of closure, but we'll try to get to that on December 1st.
we just like to see you, Phil, so that's.
It's not even the money, it's like going in and having the lady look at me when I have to put like all these stickers and it's really not fun.
All right, so
It
we'll
takes
continue
3
the
hours.
hearing.
Please talk to the abutters though and get, it seems like there's still confusion as to what you're doing, and it would be a lot easier for us if everybody was supportive. I mean, it's a great project, I think it's gonna be good, but I think Mr. DeRosa, yeah. If he thinks there's gonna be a bar there, and there's not gonna be a bar there, that's a very easy thing for you guys to get on the same page about. If you're just serving cordials with coffee, that's very different, and we could probably have a more friendly hearing about this.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to close the public hearing relative to the tax levy and continue.
No, that's not
public
what it is
hearing
though, right?
on the
It
license.
Doesn't matter. What does it-
All right. Let's get to our business agenda. So we have 2 applicants for the Permanent Street Tree Committee in attendance this evening. We'll take up Susan Fagerstrom, then Philip Tegmark. The other applicants, Julia Osborne, Austin Whitman, and Priscilla Calabi, will be present on December 1st. It sounds like they've been confirmed. So just so you both know, we're going to have you come up one at a time and present, and then we will not take a vote to fill the seats until we've met all of the candidates on December 1st. Though you don't necessarily need to come back on December 1st. You could watch us on WinCam, but just so you know that we're not going to have closure this evening. But if you want to come up first, Ms. Fagerstrom, come on up, and Get ready, Mr. Tegmark. So, good evening.
Good evening. I'm not sure what the process is, but
Generally, who you are, where you live, and why you wish to serve on the committee. We have your application, we have your resume, your statement of interest, but anything else you want to share about yourself, your experience?
Sure. My name is Susan Fagerstrom. I've been a resident of Winchester since 1999. I live at 43 Lorena Road and am have been very interested in trees, but now I would say I'm passionate about trees. So one of the reasons why I noticed in Winchester News that the Street Tree Committee was looking for new members. So I contacted the chairman at that time last spring, David Miller, and he graciously added me to the committee. So I've been attending the meetings as a non-voting member of the Street Tree Committee, and I'd love to continue in whatever capacity you guys see fit. A couple of the reasons is that I understand the value of trees. I've been noticing that we've been declining here in Winchester. I mean, it's great for shade, it's great for the climate, it's great for the beauty of the town. I am interested in the trees themselves, the inventory, helping to raise money for an endowment. My professional work was with endowments and as a business developer, so I've done a lot of presentations. But more importantly, living on Lorena, and I moved from spacing out on the first street I lived for the first 5 years of my life in Winchester, and then moved in 2005 to Lorena, which is very treed. And I'm a gardener, and so of course I have no sunny spot and would love some sunny spots, but over time I have so appreciated the shade that I think a lot of the developers on Lorena, while I watched them take down trees, you can take a tree down in 15 minutes and you grow it for hundreds of years. And my property has better grass, more drought protection because of its shade. And it's been a growing recognition of this. And so part of my interest is actually to be a town educator on the whole town and just get people to understand the value that I've grown to appreciate over time. So I've sort of given up on all that sun and all that grass, and I've grown to be such an appreciator of the shade and what the trees can offer. And I'm really happy to help people grow like I have grown, gently, because I think people need to come along and need to understand the value of the trees we have in town. And, you know, I'm willing to walk that walk with them because I've walked it since I moved to my property in 2005.
Great. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
One or two. I mean, I saw you were involved in the Fast Forest effort. I mean, you've already kind of put your money where your
All right. And I know Cressida is applying. And, you know, honestly, I'm willing to work on the Street Tree Committee. If you give me a vote or not, I'll still be helpful. Sorry to interrupt.
No. I mean,
I think she's wonderful.
You already demonstrated, I think, the fact that you're committed to this, and that you coordinated with Eversource to hook up solar panels also demonstrates that you don't give up easily, because we know that doesn't happen as quickly as we want. Did we get it done, by the way? Did Eversource hook up Lynch?
At Lynch? Let me text somebody and find it.
So I will tell you that that effort took me a very long time and a lot of dedication, but it you know, you can make it happen, but it takes a lot.
So I don't have a question. I'm just congratulating you, because if you have the patience and determination to get Eversource to do something, then I'm confident you're going to do something good with getting more trees in our town, which is definitely needed.
I know, and I know it takes patience because Eversource did, and it can happen.
Yes.
And by the way, I've been tending the Ginfield garden, which I actually designed, and I just privately go tend it all the time. It doesn't have a sign. I have been working with DPW for many, many years, but I think I made progress. It had a sign, and then it got stolen, and I'm trying to get a replacement.
Yeah.
I think we're working on it, but I know I know these things take time. Yes. So the other part of the Street Tree Committee is working with DPW, so I understand that.
Thank you for all the work and volunteerism and gardening prowess.
Yeah, that's okay. And as I said, I think if you have great applicants, I'm fine whichever way you guys decide.
Thank you. Well, we won't be deciding this evening, but thank you for coming. All right. Next up, Philip Tegmark.
Also my first time doing this, so I don't know. Did I speak in the microphone or no?
It should pick you up generally,
Oh,
so
okay,
yeah.
Cool. Hi, I'm Philip Tegmark. Live at 23 North Gateway. So my I don't know. My family moved here when I was 5, and then I've just grown up here, and then went to college, and now I'm working, doing cybersecurity stuff up in Woburn, but still live here. Yeah, I'm interested in like getting more involved in my local community, and so like I'm interested in the street tree committee specifically because like gardening's been a long time hobby of mine, and more recently like foraging and plant identification. So it seemed like it would be seems like it would be a fun thing to do. I don't know. I don't have much of a spiel prepared beyond that, but
Have you attended any of the meetings of the tree committee?
I have not. Are they open to the public or?
They are.
Okay. Do they have like a schedule somewhere or?
Yep, they'd be noticed on the calendar, so it's probably about once a month. It's not like every other week like we meet, so that's just an expectation of, availability, because, so I would make sure you sort of have the time for that. I think you probably do. And there are some sitting members, and we're looking to do some at-large members. So anything else you want to share with us about trees or nature or your interest?
I don't know. I think it'd be cool to have more trees, more fruit trees potentially. I don't know.
Okay.
Or just work on like other. I'd also be down to just help out people with whatever they're currently working on. Learn more about it.
Great.
Sounds good.
Any other questions?
What's a pirate certificate?
Yeah, that's my question too.
Okay, so MIT, where I went for college, they have a physical education requirement. So to satisfy it, you have to take like 4 physical education classes and pass the swim test. And so one way you could do that is by taking beginner archery, beginner sailing, one of the fencing classes, and either pistol or rifle.
Okay.
And if you do those things and pass the swim test, they give you a pirate certificate.
All right.
That's what I did.
It's actually pretty great.
I love that you wrote it on your CV without any explanation.
It probably has to be like the greatest thing to have in your resume for an interview, though, because people are like,
It's pretty great.
trying to know it and learn.
My mom was like, you need to get it before you graduate.
Love it. Okay.
So can I ask, in terms of back to trees, if you were to join the committee, what's sort of one initiative that you might like to take under your wing, or something that you just mentioned, fruit trees, something that would be sort of a passion area that you would sort of help steer the committee in?
I mean, I guess 2 things. So what I think would be cool, but like not knowing too much about, not having much experience with the committee, would be like, I think it'd be cool if we planted more like native fruit trees in Winchester, but also like being new, I'd probably be most interested, at least initially, in just working on stuff that other people are already working on, just helping with that. I also find that I'm just more motivated and productive when I'm working with other people on a shared task. So at least initially, yeah, just help out.
And I have a second question. In terms of your software expertise and computer science background, one of the things that was recently done by the street trees was a survey of
Canopy.
tree canopy, so of all of the trees that we have, and I believe that's GIS.
GIS.
Did your sort of CS background include any GIS or any sort of ways that you could think that you might be able to incorporate that background into sort of an existing GIS map of our trees?
Not GIS specifically, but like I'd be down to help with that. Like if there's any software side of that, I'm sure it wouldn't be too.
It's called Tree Plotter.
Tree Plotter?
Yeah, it's GIS based. You should take a look at it. I'm sure they'd love some help with it.
Yeah, sure. I'd be down.
Be careful what you agree to.
Okay.
It's not wrong.
I see you were the build director for the next haunt prior to MIT, and you said that you co-led construction of the house. Can you just give us an example of how you were able to wrangle up a bunch of college kids to actually get something done, given that wrangling up a bunch of government volunteers isn't always easy either.
What did we do? I think maybe I don't know if maybe college kids are. I don't know if they're easier. Probably easier to get. I mean, we offer. I guess you just offer like food, and you're like, hey, help us build, and then I think we just offer basically free T-shirts, and also like if you helped build the house, then you would get like a guaranteed spot in like one of the runs, like through the escape room. That seemed to work pretty well. I don't know. I was mostly just helping with like coordinating like construction, being like, here's what this wall looks like. Cut these things to these dimensions. Here's how you screw them together.
Okay. Thank you. Congrats on the pirate certificate as well.
Thank you.
So as we mentioned, we'll take a vote on December 1st. You don't need to come back. You're welcome to. You're welcome to watch at home. And we will have, 5 applicants for 4 positions, but we'll make that decision. And there'll be staggered terms. So some people will have a 1-year term, then some will have 2, and some will have 3. So I would say whoever potentially doesn't get on, perhaps in a year, there might be some openings. But so no decision tonight. So you don't need to stay unless you wish to hear more about fall town meeting and other things. But thank you for coming in. And thanks for your interest in volunteering. All right, great.
Thank you both.
So the next, we do have a reappointment for Right Log Farms Board, which is, this would be his 2nd term.
Move that we appoint David Judelson to the Bright Lock Farm Conservancy Board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I vote yes. Motion passes. Next up, we'll take up fall town meeting recap. If the town clerk and the moderator would like to come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Steve.
Welcome back, Mr. Moderator.
With a different hat on.
Yes, different.
Yes. So, I don't know, Steve, if you want to tee this up, I know I have some thoughts, but do you want to tee this up, or do we want to have Mary Ellen tee it up?
I think Mary Ellen's probably got the best summary, and since she was
Fine,
on the
sure.
point for all of
Absolutely.
the time there, so I would defer to Mary Ellen.
Sure. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about what we normally do and then get into what challenges we had, or just kind of cut to the chase with the challenges?
So I think part of just table set for the board, I mean, I think Anthony and I, we discussed this in our meeting last week for agenda planning. It was, generally, how can we problem solve for the next town meeting, and what can we have in place in terms of, readiness, infrastructure, do we have to make certain investments? That was the goal of this. But if we want to have other sort of review of fall town meeting or anything else we want to do for a debrief, that's the purpose of this conversation. So do folks want to hear from Mary Ellen on what we've done in the past, or do you want to cut to the chase?
I would.
It's just a quick thing.
I would say cutting to the
Cutting
chase,
to
but
the
I
chase,
also
no
think it
problem.
would be helpful for us to
Sure.
discuss town meeting content-wise as well.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. Well, as you know, both on the 3rd and the 6th, we experienced many technical difficulties, and they were very varied on both dates and throughout the length of the meeting. What I did is I put out an email to the people involved, which is our WinCam, our IT internally here at Town Hall, the high school staff, and kind of assembled all of that technical feedback. And basically what we are hearing from all the players involved is that there's a couple of things going on. We had competing interference on the same frequencies at the facility. So there's a 2.4 gigahertz. And so we need to really bring in an AV specialist that can assess the equipment prior to town meeting, and then keep someone like we did on the 3rd night. We hired an AV specialist to get us through the 3rd night, which was successful, to be able to determine where we're going in access points with our equipment. We have also learned that the microphones are wireless. We have a lot of wireless. It's all good when it works. But when there are multiple activities going on in the building at the same time, the access points are getting clogged up. And so we basically had a lot of traffic jams the other night. And those HDMI switches were yet another avenue of challenge for us, because they're fragile. They're built into stage left and stage right. and over the repetitive pulling in and out, not only for town meeting, but for the drama club, for the educational purposes, we need to determine on a more frequent basis whether that equipment is sturdy enough. So I think doing something where perhaps, if everyone's okay with it, you could sort of designate me to be the AV keeper, coordinator, facilitator, in addition to the town clerk duties, but let me help to coordinate the team of IT and AV and private specialists, and then let me build a calendar that when I look at the 2 times a year that we meet, we're going to then break that down into how many weeks before that will we have an inspector come in and check the equipment. Then when will I build the schedule for all of those people in the team to meet and to test the equipment? We definitely should be testing it more than we were. We were relying on pretty much doing it like a couple of nights before town meeting and even the evening of town meeting. And after talking to the players, it's best to bring in a specialist sort of quarterly. Let's assess if there's broken equipment, let's get that remedied, and kind of put out any potential fires as best we can by doing that inspection work ahead of time. And we will need also a few more staffers. The town meeting's evolved. I mean, you've all been involved in town meeting just over the last, say, 5 or 6 years. Many years ago, town meeting went very well in the sense that it was only the select board that used the projection. Everybody came up, read an oral report, said a few words, but we didn't have the complexities that are now expected in the environment. The town meeting members are younger, the technology is faster, and we have to meet that next generation where you are, which is you want PowerPoint presentations, you want to switch back and forth.
And it's the electronic voting
and stating of the electronic vote. So we now have 3 competing electronic situations where literally 4 years ago it didn't exist. So I feel very heavy-hearted about what happened in the sense that, you know, I take my job very seriously, and when things didn't go smoothly, I feel it's a very, you know, tough reflection on the town, and you always want to put your best foot forward. I think we do a good job remedying the situation. It's unfortunate it took 2 nights for that to happen. The other interesting point that one of the IT fellows said was, when we test, and I haven't even told you this, Phil, we need to spread out the test to cover as long as the length of the town meeting. So if we have a 4-hour town meeting and we're presenting right in the beginning some PowerPoints, and then we're not, we're talking, and the mics are going mute, then we're going back to the projection. We want to test that out so that we know we can manage the ebbs and the flows of the technology coming in and out of those access points, if that makes sense. And I'm not even know. I've sort of memorized this because I'm not a techie person by any means. But nevertheless, I will need to sort of hire some mic runners. I think it might be wise to wire the mics, and then we can wire on the stands on the side, and then potentially hire or get my National Honor Society students to volunteer, which is what I'm thinking of. We have that great program with the elections where I have the students come in and do the elections. So I'm thinking about maybe creatively coming up with something where we can save a little money on town meeting nights, get the community service hours in for the students. But we will need money for the AV specialist. So I can put together a package that will be for the FY27 budget, and then I'll need some kind of a FinCom transfer if my monies don't tie out. I got to take a look at the budget for FY26.
Yeah, you'd need something for spring town meeting, right?
Yeah.
So,
and we may have a special.
Yep,
I'm
that's
hearing, right? Yeah.
May not have quite as many presentations, perhaps,
maybe
but
a single presentation, a single vote.
right.
Yeah. And we could even do voice vote for a special meeting.
Could be one vote.
Or a standing vote. Don't forget, you can always do standing votes. So anyway, that's sort of the big picture on it. I do feel very comfortable that I have my hands around what happened, as much of why it happened, and then on top of it all, we also had like a volleyball tournament going on at the same time. So we had moms and dads filming their kids playing volleyball, so we had a lot of congestion on the video with those access points. So the other thing that we're going to do, if you give me the authority to manage it all, I'm going to make sure that we don't have any scheduling conflicts either with the high school. So if they have something added in, we book our town meetings a year in advance. I never circle back. We never had a problem. Well, now we might need to circle back more frequently, so my staff would need
Then
to.
usually the high school athletic stuff will be over by the time we usually meet. in
Well,
November.
you know what, today, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got to have those conversations with the athletic department too. Because if we now have a state-of-the-art gym here, folks, we just built that new gym, correct? So now it's compliant to the sports region, whatever they call them. And I'm sure they're going to be using it for a lot more events. So I want to make sure we don't have that conflict. Because I did take a quick look at potential other locations to do town meeting, and the Moore Auditorium, we just don't have any equipment over there. That would be like big money to build that up, to have WinCam there and free stream. So I think the high school...
Acoustics are not good there.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the problem.
It's terrible that it happened, but we know what we need to do. We want to continue to advance the technology as far as the presentations and getting people to be interested and involved and free stream it and all of that. So if you give me a little bit of support on the budget and support on hiring some staff and getting consultants in, I think we can certainly remedy it.
And it wasn't terrible. It didn't really have a substantive impact. And, these things happen. We've been talking about this for a while,
Yeah.
right? So it's just
Well,
now.
I take it personally, I guess.
You shouldn't. I think it was a couple things that went wrong with vendors and maybe some traffic stuff that we've been talking about handling anyways. And we've been just kind of like keeping, just kind of like putting Band-Aids on things and trying to figure it out. But you're right. We have evolved. There is more of a demand. One of the questions I had for you, too, is at one point you were kind of running things from the back table there.
Yeah.
Is that an option for us? Because, we have Matt or, somebody from our staff that's usually kind of just jumping up and down and hitting. I mean, it just seems like we can streamline that, like, kind of up and down and, like, somebody finding a file.
That's something I want to try to streamline, especially for the Article 1 stuff, so that everybody's slides are just on one slide and you can just progress to the next slide.
Yeah.
It can be managed from the back of the room even without,
It can. When we did remedy, Phil and I talked about that as sort of solution to what happened on the third night, and that's where we brought Mike and we put him right down there on the floor. We can bring him back up to the stage and sort of, put that behind the scenes, if you will.
And you probably know more than anybody because you're behind Chris Dixon, probably have presented the most times.
Yes, yeah.
I think some folks especially like to have somebody there to help them, like, right here, click here. But in terms of finding files, we shouldn't have to do that anymore.
No, I've taken control of that.
Yeah.
We've got a Dewey Decimal System in the modern age. Mary Ellen is taking control of.
One thought. So I agree with Mike. I wouldn't take any of it personally. I mean, I think in the scheme of coming out of town meeting, nobody cited the tech issues as a complaint. They had plenty of complaints, and that was.
Well, I did have a few emails. I did get a few
fair
emails.
enough.
Yeah, I did.
So I think
I might have sent one.
I think the clicker cast that some people just not. It didn't show up or it miscast. That was the one I heard a little bit about. I do think, though, that one idea is just, the presentation deadlines will make your life a lot easier. I think if it's whatever you want to set.
Right.
But if it's not, if it's 5 p.m. that evening, people will send you their presentations at 5 p.m.
Exactly.
And that probably isn't fair to you. So if you send it either 9 a.m. that day or the night before, there may be a rare exception, but I think, people were just revising presentations because they could.
Right.
And I think just cutting that off.
Yep. For the record, I think we could use less PowerPoint presentations and more straightforward presentations. I think it's more persuasive that way, and people pay more attention to the speaker. So if someone didn't meet the deadline, that's probably the best.
Okay, in case we're wondering, Phil's a lawyer.
That's true. One thing I will say, and this, I didn't mention this to you yet, but when I was talking to the vendor on the electronic vote, I've been a busy woman today, there's a wireless base that we use to capture all the votes. And having that up on the stage, it's quite sort of, I don't know what the word is, but the walls are very thick, there's interference. So they suggested perhaps bringing that down. And we can fit that, it's a very small thing. But the town meeting members used to sit in the main part of the auditorium. And we did that back then because I would have to do a roll call vote or a standing vote, and I'd have to know where are they. I didn't want to have to look all over the auditorium.
Yep.
So we kind of corralled everybody. We also had them sit by precinct. We don't have to force that issue now with the electronic. But the closer the people are to the wireless base, the more rapid that vote is going to get to the teller in the back.
It's an easy.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we do need some support to get people to corral, because most of the clickers, when people would come up to me and say, it didn't register, and I know I pressed it. I know you did press it, but you were beyond, way in the back, standing by the exit door. So we've got to do some educational advice on that, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing I'm worried about is the votes, and I think, from what they said, a little bit of the microphones were interfering because they're all in the 2.5 whatever.
Right.
And then the same thing is like there's a lot more people, and we're encouraging people to download their documents on their iPads and stuff, but there's just so much more traffic than there was in years past when people have their phones and iPads during the meeting.
That's right. And we gave you all the handouts, and so you'd have the paper to look through.
I mean, that would be my main comment too, is just working with whoever you're going to use for AV, but also working with the schools to figure out what can be set up in terms of, different networks and things. If can we set up a network for the for the duration of town meeting that our presenters and our materials can be on, that other people, that's separate from the guest network or separate from
Sure.
a different, because I think that's probably where, when things are overloaded, then, and you can't tell people get off your
I know.
Yes, I could.
good luck to you with that. Yeah. So I think that might be a big thing that can help. Is just
Sure.
locking down.
We learned a lot and brainstormed quite a bit. There's a lot of good talent in the existing team. So I think just having the coordination of someone, like myself, to sort of pull it together and to have those communications at various marking points, I think, that alone with the AV specialist reviewing and inspecting, I think will be okay.
I would support that idea of you being more the quarterback and putting a little bit of budget against that.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys stepping up for the third night to get the specialist in there. That really helped run smoother.
I would loop in, sorry, Michelle, Andrew Marion, if you're on already.
Yes, he's one of the folks
Okay.
that helped give me quite a bit of information.
fair enough.
Yeah,
If
he
you need
educated
select
Maybe
board
the
support,
GIS kit could help too.
Yes.
Philip, he just left. If you need help in select board, I'm happy to be a liaison to that effort too. One thought on, Anthea mentioned about licenses. So the guest licenses, we hit a limit at some point. So I know I couldn't get on, but also with your AV, a hotspot, is that something that they could bring? So it's
Okay.
a separate, it's a separate network for potentially V-voter, potentially what the moderator's trying to do, for some redundancy. So that might get you not just speed, but you don't have as much interference. And that's, if your AV person has a hotspot, if we purchase a hotspot, kind of, we have owls, right? We could have additional networks that exist, that are portable. And then I think the other piece, which is more, not technology, but just a general thought, I made some notes from the spring, which I'm happy to share with you, Mary Ellen and Philip offline, but just that whole run of show type thing, not just, deadlines and PowerPoints, but, who's coming and what and when. And not just, tomorrow night we'll take up articles this through that, which we all know when we leave, we got as far as Article 18, so we're going to pick up at 19. But who's ready? And are they ready? And just managing that so that we're not chasing folks down. I mean, not that people will say, I have to, I'll be late, you have to take this out of order, but how can we just collectively get all of the presenters and article proponents prepared in time so it's up on the screen, but also ready to speak and everyone knows that they're at a microphone that works, they're sitting somewhere where they can get to the microphone, like literally just the logistics of where the bodies are relative to the equipment, relative to the microphones. That'd be good too. Might be some assigned seating for folks, but that's not a technology, it's more of a run of the show, but happy to chat that through.
So we're talking more broadly. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We were
seriously.
talking about that since we've been teamed up. We've been talking about ways in which we can enhance that for sure. We're both sort of like-minded about making sure that everybody is prepared. I think the other piece that we want to do is maybe even offer, we talked about training, is even offer like a little mock for these folks. Mock, I mean, I'm a public speaker. I've been doing it my whole career, right? And I was a debate kid in high school. But a lot of people can't, they get very nervous. And then when the mic doesn't go on, it's an automatic oh my gosh, what's happening?
Yes.
So we could take that level down a little bit if we do some mock training and offer for people to come and do some public speaking classes with me and Phil in the various times at the Winchester Room or something.
Do you want to talk beyond tech? Should we talk?
We can talk beyond tech, and then I actually want to just make sure if there's any other investments select board ought to try to make beyond just the budget. But let's talk beyond tech, and then let's wrap it up from.
Yeah, just a super
Yeah,
quick
just get
comment.
another
Sorry,
shot.
Andy, I know you want to say it, but I think we expanded use of the consent agenda this time, and I think that was good, right? We did, I think, the OPEB and then the healthcare stabilization fund via consent. I think we could probably move
Thanks for that.
personnel board to it next time too, because personnel board was fairly long, and I think it was largely administrative.
Right.
So I would probably move that one next time too.
Well, that's like a collaborative thing, that mostly coming from the manager's office, but I'll make the note.
Yeah, that's kind of a
Yeah, we can.
decision for each, town meeting, right?
Right.
Because,
But I think we did use it more, and I think I
Used it
agree.
more, and I think there's probably, that was the one article I think we could have, it had a bunch of motions, right, that I think we could have probably, we could have done, and I think they were all unanimous, very
A
administrative.
lot of unanimous votes, even in the spring.
So then, any other questions on the meeting itself? In terms
I was just going to actually second that suggestion of offering people a dry run.
Yeah.
I think even to say like,
it's good for your
like,
test.
here's like Wednesday night ahead of
We're gonna need
the week
100
before town
volunteers
meeting,
for
you can
funds.
come in and,
School assembly.
test it
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
I think that is a nice offer. People may or may not take you up on it, but
Sure.
it's always nice to
Yeah,
have the
I mean-
opportunity to do a dry run.
I basically have only viewed town meeting in so many years of sort of the clerical aspects of what I'm doing and the post certification. But now that this has happened and we're kind of on the same page, I'm running this just like I run the elections.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way we got to do it.
Yeah.
And our elections are
Well,
flawless.
that's been the issue. There's so many, like schools and Voter and
Yeah.
Winkham. There's a lot of different fiefdoms, but I think
Yeah.
Mary Ellen's got it.
Yep.
We'll get our hands around it.
Okay.
Okay?
And then the last thing I want, select board, so Mary Ellen and Mr. Moderator, please keep us up to speed, and town manager's office. But if there's an investment that select board from our, hospital gift account, we've invested in things like baseball fences and other things. If there's a piece of equipment, not that we need our name on it, right? We have a sign out the side, we want our name, but there's like a,
Holographic.
if there's a piece of equipment, an investment we can make, it's the select board's town meeting. It's our warrant. We call the meeting. So if there's a piece of equipment, that's maybe different from your AV specialist and recurring, but I would like us as a body to consider, we want to purchase that, or we want to purchase the maintenance for that, or if we have to replace HDMI switches,
Right.
maybe we do one and the schools do another one sometime, but it's our town meeting and it's our warrant, and if we want to make some investments, we should think about that ourselves.
Yeah, and
I don't know what it is right now. I'm not sure if it's
Sure.
$5,000 or $10,000.
Can we just dust the
But-
screen
Dust the screen.
On the laptop?
on the big
Projector
screen?
thingy?
The big
Oh, the
white
big screen.
Oh, okay.
We need some rigging.
We'll give you a really long duster.
I mean, I would honestly say as a viewer of town meeting, and we are up at the front, right? But the screen's a little dusty. That's fine. But actually, the lumens
Yeah, it's
on
very-
the
very
the
dim.
Limons are,
the
yeah,
lighting.
yeah.
So
yeah.
if there is a projector or something that can,
Oh, in the projector, not on the screen.
when you look at the
It's
screen,
very dim.
it's very
Yeah.
dim.
Yeah.
There's not. It's
We,
so
you
like
know,
the lumens on
The lighting overall in the
The
auditorium is
lighting,
tough. We've
it
talked
is
about
tough,
this.
and we
you know.
can, and
Yeah.
we have a challenge with that because I could bring in somebody from the facilities to manage the lights and dim them when we do projections. However, then WinCam can't do what they need to do to project it. So we've got some competing interests there too, and we've always erred on the side that WinCam is a great partner. We're going to make that look really great, and we're going to kind of do the best we can.
They're good about
In this.
upgrading technology though as well. So
Yeah.
and so they usually try to stay on top of things. So I'm sure they'll welcome the conversation with us
So,
as well.
yeah, so I would just say,
You gave me some
I don't know
good
about the
ideas.
dust. The dust is kind of that's tradition. I wouldn't want to break from that.
it does.
It's in the same lower left corner every time, and I'm like, oh, is that like something fancy on
There's
the
like
slide?
a hand print.
Yes.
Like, little- Like,
I was just tracking.
I'm on it.
Yeah.
I'll get it, I'll figure it out for you.
Anyway, between the budget request through the manager's office to what you might need to a piece of equipment that's,
Okay.
you know, maybe a one-time purchase, or maybe give us a couple of options, but I think
Yeah.
it'd be, you know, I'm thinking in advance of the spring.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just, you know, not just
Oh,
for
yeah.
long-term, but if we, what can we
Yeah,
do to support this effort, potentially with some money that, because it's the warrant and it's the work that we want to get through with the
Yeah.
town. So just keep that in mind and keep Steve updated so we can
Oh,
get it
absolutely.
on a
We're-
future agenda.
I'm still, like, even though it's not until either February or spring, I'm working on this
Yep.
now, building it, developing it, and then we'll have
And
that
Michelle, you'll take the
conversation
lead
again.
for us on this and stay connected to it? So-
Yeah.
Okay.
While we're all here, 7 o'clock, work for everybody?
I'd love 7 o'clock.
No, it's all right.
7:30 might be better, but
Now,
7:30.
From a
good.
clerking standpoint, my 34 years, is showing my age, 7 o'clock is good.
Yeah.
6:30 is too early, you've got people feeding kids. 7:30 is too late, because those same people who fed the kids are sitting in the meeting, they've got to go home and get to everything packed. And I mean, I raised 3 kids, I know what it's like. And the majority, we've got, I won't say majority, but you're getting pretty close that you've got a lot of young families on this town meeting. They're very interested in what's happening in the town, and they want to stay committed, but I think a 7 to 10 is your window. And in a bad night, 7, to 10:20, Phil, no
Hard
later.
out, 10:30.
10:30, absolutely drop dead. So, anyway.
thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me say this publicly so that the people at home also know that there's, integrity in the vote, in the process, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for the work. Okay. Next up, thank you, Nick, for your patience. We'll now talk Mystic School.
How are you? And I have all the certified votes done, so those will be going out tomorrow morning.
Nice.
Okay?
Thank you.
Good evening.
So just to catch you up, we had, in the manager's report, we asked Steve to just delay the more robust conversation about the annex and the shoring and the foundational work until you were able to join us. And I think there's some broader, Mystic School building kind of concerns we want to make sure we cover. And then I think Paris, we're going to tee up potentially the directors, board of directors idea. But do we want to start maybe with the annex and the work? Is that a good place to start, Steve? Nick, I don't care
Sure.
which wants to start, but.
Do you want to give an overview? I sort of described what I was talking about. My point in bringing it to this board is that you are now the custodians of that property. And the most immediate need, if you will, relates to the potential temporary shoring of that wing where it was found that shoring was needed. The initial cost projection for that is about $54,000 for about a 6-month period, as I saw the notes from our folks. With the reinspection at 6-month intervals, unless there's something new, but is considered to be temporary shoring, whatever that temporary means. But in the meantime, what happens for the permanent fix, if you choose to go that way, needs to be determined. Cost factors are all out there. And the broader question is, what's the future of that building? So with that, I can turn it to you.
Yeah, so you explained it pretty well. So we're not able to use the annex part of the building right now, as obviously, for being very cautious about making sure it's shored up. We're making do, but it's not ideal for our programming. We've combined several different classes. If you know our after-school program, it's a robust, very active program. We have 7 classrooms, and then we divide the 8th classroom for all of our enrichment programs that we run hourly there. So we have actually 2 enrichments in 1 classroom. We've had to move all of that out of that wing into the main or the older part of the building up into where the main office is in that area. We don't have any additional space to use. The gym is used, whether a kid's corner is in there or we have other enrichment program going on in there after school. So we've had to combine classrooms. So some of that means we have 40 kids in a classroom. We've been creative with our scheduling to rotate one group outside, keep them inside. It's getting colder though, and snow's coming, so we know that that's probably not going to be ideal if this goes for a long time. So we've been really trying to get this rectified. I'm hoping that we could get it shored up, hopefully by mid-December. And I think the key is, funding. Funding is always the key with everything, when big things happen. A little follow-up on what Steve said is the initial cost of the shoring is about $40,000, and that includes the first month rental. The rental for the 6 months is going to bring it over $50,000. So I think it was $54,000 for the 6 months of rental. We know that a long-term repair is probably going to be a little bit more than 6 months for things to kind of develop, get engineering and design, figure out that funding. So the grand scheme and cost is going to stretch out probably further than that, just being completely transparent. In terms of the rec department, we funded the engineering and design, which was, I think, $14,000 around that area, because this is detrimental to our program not operating at full strength. So we want to get this done. For us, we're hoping that there's an outlet for us for the town to help us with the initial shoring cost. And I know trying to fund the monthly fees might be something that we can discuss. I think between the rec department, whether it's the enterprise or looking into our EEC grant money, we might be able to help with that. And I say that because it's so important for us to get these classrooms back, not just for the kids in the program and the way we structure, but also for the staff.
So if the shoring is in, you could put the classroom.
As soon as that shoring is done and inspected, we can get them back up and running. And talking to one of the contractors, he said they were about 2 weeks out from starting the project, and he thinks that getting the shoring done would be a week to a week and a half. So we could be up and running less than a month if we can get the money put aside, we can get that moving forward. And so hopefully before we get to the new year, we could be back to normal operations.
The $14,000 of engineering and design, that was for the $54,000 of shoring, or that was for the permanent solution?
That was just for the shoring engineering, yep.
So you're down 2 classrooms, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the 54 number, that's for 6 months. That includes the equipment rental and the installation and all that other stuff.
Correct.
If at the end of 6 months we need another 6 months, what's the cost of that next 6 months?
So the rental of the equipment is about $1,500, give or take, per month. And I think the engineering for a check on that is right around the same range. It's less than $2,000. So we're not talking huge bucks, but it'll add up over month by month.
Of course.
But it's much
not,
less.
Yeah, it's not $54,000 every 6 months.
Correct. Yeah.
Because we might not have a full-blown answer for what the permanent solution is going to
So
be.
it sounds like it's about 20.
Yeah, so my thing is, I'd like to get this, I know there's a lot of layers to this, right? It's like lasagna with the building and what's going on, what the long-term plan is. But for us, it's, let's get this up and running, and then that gives us step by to figure out if a permanent fix is the best way to go, or if there's where we're going with the building and how we operate there. So that's kind of my 2 cents in terms of where we're at and how I want to operate that.
So it sounds like I just want to make sure that we want to make sure that tonight, A, there's agreement to move forward with the shoring, and B, we're going to problem solve funding for that project, right? We do have modest lease payments coming in now to Kids Corner starting December. I don't know if I would think schools collected November's rent, but we now get the lease, which could pay for some of the equipment rental.
We can ask the school committee to help. I mean,
with
this
November's
asset has been ours for 5 days to help us with the shoring cost from the equipment rental fund that the Kids Corner payments went into.
Yep.
They could say no, but
yes.
I mean, in the spirit of we're all trying to.
And this was known before the transfer as well.
Correct.
This was known before the transfer. So I'm just saying that there is some recurring payment coming our way for some of that rental cost. It's not $54,000. It's not available to us tomorrow. But I just want to sort of, because I think, everyone recognizes, Bill points it out, Nick does too, it's going to be inspected in 6 months. We may need to shore it up another 6 months. There's this longer term, what's the disposition of the building? But I don't know that we want to be in the whole, well, we're not going to pay the rental fee, so you're back to sending the kids outside, not having classrooms. I don't think we're going to make a short-term decision. But within 12 months, we need to understand, because I'm sure the permanent solution is very significant. And do we, as now the owners of the property, want to make that kind of investment in that building? Don't know, right? But I think we need to make it operational. So that's one source of money, is the rental. So we can, let's ask town manager, maybe it's you or Mark, Steve, to reach out to schools on the building rental, or at least the rent that they've collected, to help with some of the shoring costs.
Those classrooms are used for wrap.
So they use for kids corner, kids connection preschool, and wrap in the afternoon, and then also enrichment programs. So as we're kind of going from the fall to the winter, and if we don't have that, we're back into the January. We're going to have to adjust how we operate, and it's going to affect the bottom line because we won't be able to offer as much. So we're reducing our revenue ability making.
Any idea how much? Because that would be a good thing to. If we say like we're giving up 30 grand in revenue.
Yeah,
Well, but who do we even make?
It's 5 days. So if you think about it, we have two classrooms in there 5 days a week, right? In terms of enrichment, and it could easily be in a single season over 30 grand, depending on how popular those are.
If we go to town meeting right now, we could get them. I'm pretty sure we can get that money from town meeting. The problem is we don't have town meeting now for another 6 months. So we're trying to find spare change to get this done.
Well, the reserve fund
Would
be the most appropriate spot for
we go to FinCom, you're saying?
FinCom, yeah.
Yes.
And this would be
Yes.
400, yeah.
Any given year. Yep.
We're strategic
And
maintenance.
I don't know if they didn't even have an article to replenish, so they may not have spent much, because very often at fall time meeting, it comes back to get rounded back up to 400K. So I assume they have close to it.
They barely spent any because the planning
Came back through. So I think reserve fund transfer potentially for the first 54,000. Let's see if schools can give us some of that. So the ask is 50,000 or something. I assume there's no other money, Steve, in any other budget. I would think not.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And that reserve fund request would come from us.
Yes. Select board. Yep. And we could, Nick could go, one of us could accompany Nick to that meeting with FinCom if
You don't
it's,
want to
in
send him in
person.
alone is why I was asking, so.
No, it should come from us.
I don't mind.
I know you don't.
And I don't know, I can text Derek and see when the next meeting is, but we can it's a form that you fill out. We can try to get that on their next meeting, and I'll try to get that answer tomorrow. And then if your vendor is really 2 weeks out and, okay, the next meeting's this, would you be ready to be mobilized right after Thanksgiving? Which would be great if FinCom meets between now and the end of the month. That's probably the quickest path forward to get you. And then, that goes up, the comptroller releases the money. It moves pretty quickly after FinCom takes the vote. Longer term, I think it would be good to know what that monthly cost is, and then between the rental income that we'll start to receive, if there's still, this is longer play for this fiscal year, Nick, if there's, then we're still short with the rental amount, after the inspection, and we have to cover May and June, then we can put an article on at the Springtown meeting for current year expenditures, and then build into the budget for FY27 if need be as equipment or expense. So
How are we going to figure out the actual solution here? Do we need
is there
to fund an
engineering on?
So right now, the Gale
Fund engineering.
Yeah.
Next, sorry.
the Gale Engineering is developing a proposal for the permanent, so we'll know what the actual engineering costs will be, and then we'll have another discussion on if and how that would be funded.
Okay.
That might be a Springtown meeting. I don't know how we would look at that.
These for the permanent repairs?
Yeah, they're going to submit a proposal to Peter.
That was my understanding.
Yep.
That Springtown meeting, then we're talking funding fall town meeting, funding the actual construction.
Yep.
Can we make sure the scope is wide enough to look at all structural issues that are imminent?
Yeah, so the Gale went down and inspected all of the posts throughout that whole area.
Yeah.
And so they did already say that half of them are in great shape, the other ones are not in great shape.
Need a motion for the sake of going to FinCom?
Yes, we might as well.
Move that we support the Recreation Department with presenting a reserve fund transfer to FinCom in approximately $54,000, in the amount of approximately $54,000.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Hey, just for the sake of it though, there's no FinCom meeting noticed, I know we're on the calendar,
No.
so I don't know who's gonna talk to schools, but maybe to get this moving, if they have more liquid funds that can be accessed sooner and repaid even.
We can pursue it.
Yeah, so we won't, till you're not waiting until mid-December.
FinCom could also call a meeting.
FinCom
They
can
would,
have
they
a
could
meeting
call
in
it for just
48
that reason.
Yeah,
They can call like a Zoom meeting.
48 hours.
Yeah.
Notice.
72 hours, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you know,
Speak to Derek.
I'll speak to Derek. Yep. I could text him now, but I won't. I'll speak to him tomorrow. It's unanticipated. You know, it's not something, it's not deferred maintenance that we didn't know about, so, okay. I will talk to Derek, and if you can talk with schools and see, if, you know, collected rental revenue, or make sure that rental revenue is starting to flow our way, that'd be great. Okay, so the next topic, slightly off, I'll take a quick peek.
Yeah, it's really a state of the town update. Can I take it, Michelle?
Yes.
So this is actually a state of the town update, but since Nick is here, we thought we might as well talk about it now. State of the town is one item lower. So a group had met with Nick maybe a month and a bit ago at this point. It was Michelle, myself, and a school
Stephanie.
committee member,
Yeah.
Stephanie Menardi, school committee and capital planning. And we had a good conversation about rec as part of State of the Town. And there's a lot of programs in that building, adult education, RAP, kids connection. There's programs in the school buildings. There's potential additional education you're looking to do broadly. And it struck us in that conversation that these are really complicated issues. You know, this whole question about Mystic has been, well, you know, we're not going to be in Mystic in a year, so let's not do CapEx in it. And then we end up in a really tough spot. And in fact, how many years have you heard that? Probably every year you've worked for the town of
almost
Winchester.
6 years.
Yeah. And so we need a vision. And Nick has a lot of jobs. And the question is, can we, you know, we talked about this, I think, a couple times at State of the Town. I mentioned it in a response to a town meeting member's question on night 3 of town meeting as well, which is, can we get Nick a few people, because we're otherwise the board, for not now we have care and control of the Mystic School itself. I guess we can start calling it the Mystic Building, as well as, you know, we're actually the rec board. So this isn't the idea of giving, creating a board that then supervises, our rec director who will continue to report to our town manager, but just a group of volunteers, an advisory board who can help him in really answering these questions of what's our programmatic vision, what facilities should host the programs, and how do we enhance, coordination with other sort of town bodies as it relates to capital as well as fields, assets, and other private entities. This is a very schematic view of it, but the idea is, there's volunteers who are really interested in it. We obviously want volunteers who are going to work, not volunteers who are going to give you their opinions. Their opinions too, but we also want them to take on real work for you. And I believe there's a lot of people interested in town to help think this through, and it's obviously just really hard for us as select board to devote meaningful bandwidth to these questions, given that we have a million other things to do.
Nick, would you like to weigh in on that?
I think I'm one of the only recreation departments in the state that doesn't have some sort of board. There's very few that are, I don't know of any, actually. I had a great talk with the Lexington Recreation Director at our MRPA meeting the other day. They're very similar to us. They're a little bit larger. They have a golf course that helps with their overall revenue. But they are also an enterprise account. And they have a really great working board. They divide and conquer all things. They do a lot of the canvassing of the community, make sure recreation is represented well, that not only recreation is represented, but the citizens, because recreation is, all ages, it's multi-generational, so making sure that they're offering and representing, what the makeup of the community is as well. They have a 5-person advisory board. I'm going to get their charge revolving around that so that we don't have to kind of recreate the wheel. I think we take a look at that and then kind of maybe I can get a couple others and we can make sure that whatever comes together works for Winchester. And she actually mentioned that they might be moving to a 7-person board because the work is so extensive that they're doing now, and they have a lot of young families that are getting involved, much like we do at town meeting. So I don't think we need to go there yet, but that's a good thing to have, knowing that the board's working for the rec department and really doing a lot of good work there. So if we can kind of mirror some of that, I think we'd be in good shape. There's so many projects going on with the WCCP as well, throwing that into there. So having extra eyes and ears and hands on deck would be a godsend for the department as we're growing. And we're growing at good bits every year, high percentages, 10, 15, 20% every year.
So I wonder if like the COA's board is also not a good example too. Our Council on Aging, which has a, appointed board.
I think that's a terrific example.
Yeah, appointed board with a director of, a Council on Aging employee, and then an advisory board. So between other recs, but also here in town,
Yep.
What does that look like? I think they have 7 members, but we would probably want to start with 5. So maybe pull that. We can get you in touch with, well, you can talk to Philip Belts, but we can get you in touch with their director as well if need be, the board chair.
So do we need to approve this, or?
I think it's a discussion for tonight. I think we would want to approve it. If we want to approve it, soon-ish.
Approve the development of it so we can just get it going, so.
People are prepared to
we talked about,
exploratory.
Michelle and I talked about State of the Town. I said it at the floor town meeting. I thought it was appropriate for this board to everyone have a chance to weigh in on whether they like it. And if so, we can develop it more. We can approve it, we develop more, or we can just develop more and bring it back. But
Well, if Nick wants it, I mean, it's, that would be my only concern if he didn't, right? If
You want more
imposing
cooks
it
in your
on-
kitchen, Nick? You sure about that now? Be careful what you wish for, right?
It is. It's 50-50 one way or the other, right? But we're getting to the point where we need a little bit more help to get some things through. It's only so far we can be stretched. So, and there's a lot of great people in town that have their finger on the pulse of things that are recreation based, and I think there's some good fits in town, and people would be excited to be part of the board.
yeah, and I think that you had made that comment to me, which is that you don't, you're not looking for a group of people who show up with a lot of, strong opinions about what you should be doing or shouldn't be
Right.
doing, and then don't do any work. So
How many of those?
Yeah, exactly.
Where would we find 5?
So I do think having a group, that obviously we can appoint them, but that it's a group of people you want to work with who are going to substantively dig in is quite important, which is why that first bullet reads sort of in consultation with the rec director.
I mean, the structure makes sense. I think the questions are the right ones. Maybe there are more as it evolves, but I would say this is something, I'd like to see move sooner than later. And I don't know what we need to do in order to make that happen, of course. I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know what everybody else is.
Bill, Anthea, how do you feel about
So
that assertion?
I think it's a great idea, and my questions are, you have a field committee. They have a very specific sort of use, so what would be the sort of abutting of a rec board versus a field committee, because there's certainly an overlap there. Also, we 5 are the parks commissioners in Winchester for lack of parks commissioners. So how does that interact would that interact as well? And kind of like that where do the circles in this Venn diagram overlap and touch, and who has?
I can take the second one.
Yeah, so in terms of the field management committee, they have a very specific and pointed role that's supported by 2 different bylaws, and that's basically what they do. Recommendation board to the town manager's office. I'm a part of that board. I don't oversee that board. The recreation board would be more in terms of how we're monitoring and growing our enterprise, which is completely separate from field management committee. I mean, we have the one of the largest clay tennis courts in the country that's municipal that we manage and run, where we have some revitalization of the Beauregard area that we're going to be looking at and looking for people that have all hands on deck with some of those. The renovation of the tennis courts is a massive undertaking. I'd love to have a board to help with that process. The Mystic School is a huge example. We just talked about, like, what does the future of the rec department look like? How are we transitioning into the future? We have a lot of pressure from the community as we continue to grow. There's a lot of good excitement for the rec department. We get a lot of great feedback, but with growth comes more expectations on more stuff. Right? There's an expectation that we're going to start to grow back into more of a community education department. We're offering way more adult programs. We don't have the bandwidth to do that. We need help to put that, to develop it, to get it together. We're going to need to hire somebody to get that done. So there's a lot of moving parts in terms of the enterprise. When I took over in the middle of COVID, right? We didn't even make $1 million that year. We had to get bailed out. We're on the cusp of being a $3 million organization, which people didn't think that was possible. So as we're growing and expanding, having more people on deck to push some of the political aspects and helping with boards, helping with some of the policy making and where we're going to put our eggs in that basket is going to be very helpful for me and for the department as a whole. A lot of that, we have so many boards and committees in towns. Navigating that as a one person is a pretty big task, and everyone seems to be stretched thin in town. So having that support would be extremely helpful, just even to have conversations outside of the realm of committee.
And people that are excited about those things as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you do all that you do. I mean, in the expansion of our programs, and I think people see that, but they don't realize that's also revenue that is coming in for our facilities. When you look at pickleball courts and things like that, like the demand for recreation here is high. So you meeting it is difficult and needs some support beyond certainly staff is part of the conversation, but
So
this board would be helpful.
one thing I'm thinking, and Bill, I want to actually, before I make, are you in favor before I make a recommendation on how to move forward?
Yeah, I'm in your department every day. There's not a week that goes by that I don't talk to Mitch or Chris or whoever's in the office, and we've availed ourselves of all different programs that you guys have put together, and Carol McCollum has come close to saving my family. So supporting the WinRec department is very important to me, and I want to see this happen because I think it's just going to lead to more programs, better programs, and more people around town being involved in seeing just what good their local government can do for them and the community that it can build. So this is a great idea, and I'm happy to give whatever time is necessary to help write the effectuating document that puts the board together in a way that coordinates it properly with all the other interests around town and gives them the charge that they need so that they're focused on how they can do the most good. So I'm all for it.
So I'm being fact-checked in real time. COA has 11 people on their board, so just want to point that out.
That's a lot.
So what I was thinking as a next step for Nick, similar to what we did with 164 is with the trust, right? We asked Marty to put together a work plan, to come back with some ideas, and to update us in like 3 months' time. If you can come back in 2 months' time, whenever it's ready. But I think, a draft charter, requirements maybe for volunteers, a description type thing of what the board might do, expected meeting cadence. I mean, we can, any one of us can help you with Nick. So with this, Nick, so make sure you avail us and Steve's office of that. But I think putting it on you with whoever you wish to work to, we'll make introductions with the board chairs, but maybe come back in 2 months or 3 months, like say by February, with an outline, potential charge, a statement, not a statement of work, but an actual mission or charter for the group. And then when you'd want to actually start to have appointments roll in, because it needs to launch at a time that you can actually, onboard people. We need to advertise, we need to interview. but you need to be able to, give them something to do. So giving you a board and then stressing about your first meeting isn't very helpful. So just what does that calendar look like for you? So what are they going to do, and when do you think you want to spin them up? And then we can work backward from getting people seated in those seats. That's just a thought. But I think with the trust, it was very helpful for us to get the work plan, the development plan, the who and the what, because they were the closest to it. Anybody want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm happy to help you with any of the documentation.
The only thing I think with the trust, I think we created the trust and then we put some folks on the trust, and I think then we came up with the work plan.
Yep.
So that's the only thing
I'm thinking the work plan, just the implementation of when he wants to have this board ready.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying if we establish it, he gets board members, and then they
can start doing the things you want to do.
Yes,
I
or
agree.
they can help with the work plan, or they can help facilitate it. Just because I'm sure there's some people that you have in mind already that would be good as this advisor, at least the kickoff of the advisory board.
Right, and you could have some of those people help you just develop this. But I don't want to give you a board before you're ready to have a board, but I also want to make sure we know if we're recruiting people the same way we do for other boards, that we're getting the right kinds of availability and qualifications and energy that you think you need.
But I think getting a draft charter, the meeting cadence, and some of that together, I think probably a lot of the majority of this board might be willing to help you with it. So
I think everybody would.
Yeah, I think everybody would. So your timing on it, I think we're all very happy to help out with that. But yeah, I think
if there's other communities doing, it's going to be somewhat of cobbling together of best practices from other places, right? So I don't have that visibility like you do. So if there's other communities that we can kind of cut and paste, it might make sense, and it can evolve over time, right?
Right.
So
Any questions for us? Basically, I think you heard is like let's go forth and try to figure it out. But anything you need from us?
Not necessarily at this point. Like, I'll put some stuff together and then we'll share it and have a working plan and we'll get something together. I'm looking forward to it. I've seen rec committees work really, really well. The town of Bedford had a great one. They're very supportive. We grew the program immensely, and they were very helpful. And I see that in Lexington and some other communities around here. So, hoping we can kind of earmark that and try to put something very similar together here.
Good. Thank you. Thanks, Paris. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Let us know if you need some help on that reserve fund transfer. Certainly Stacy can help with that. And I'll try to get back to you with FinCom and when we can get that in front of them.
Okay, great.
I'll circle back with Steve and you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for your patience tonight. All right. So the next item on the agenda was something that had come up over the summer. Two different board members had wanted to throw winter overnight parking on the agenda, and I wanted to get through fall town meeting, but tonight's we're not necessarily unpacking the policy and advertising a public hearing on this topic, but we hear a lot about enforcement, about overnight parking, and just wanted to let's time limit it, 10 minutes on what ideas people might have to solve some of the challenge that we have with current folks who don't have enough off-street parking. And we know if we develop the Center Business District with 3A and North Main Street, or even 10 Converse, it's one space per unit. And so we're going to be developing buildings and housing with parking requirements that may not fit the need of the residents. And overnight parking in the winter would just become more exacerbated. So this is just a bit of the feel of the board. Where do we think? Do we think we have a problem we want to try to resolve? And then what kinds of ideas do folks have? So I'll throw it out there and I'll start my watch.
Oh, do we have a time?
I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to
we
do 10 minutes.
I think we do have a problem to solve, and we've heard from residents a lot, especially in recent years, and whatever you want to attribute warmer weather to, it seems that the inclement weather kind of snow emergency stuff has been pushed later into the year than it had been in the past, and so there's a lot of the parking ban goes into effect pretty early and is not necessarily connected to those events. So I've lived in other communities where the blue light goes on the traffic signals and people know it's a snow emergency and they got to figure out where to go with their car, right? Or if they know that they're going away for a few days, where they're going to put their car in case snow is coming, and if people don't have driveways or whatever. So I guess the question is maybe to coordinate with Bob and Danny and see what options maybe we could, implement, because I think I don't know how we're enforcing it either, because it seems, like it's
A bit inconsistent, maybe?
yeah, that's a good word. Yep.
Okay. Ours? I'll just go this way, around the table.
That's true.
Okay. Bill?
It does seem like a policy that is broader and over-applied than it needs to be, and then selectively enforced. If there's a way of making it better attuned to the actual need, like what Mike said in terms of maybe, a warning when an actual snow emergency is expected, or limiting the time frame, or really targeting the streets where it's more of an issue. I'm happy to take any of those approaches to see how we can, get rid of an unnecessary burden on our residents. And then the only thing, just, all that said, I will always defer to what our emergency professionals are going to say is necessary for safety. So I respect that sometimes ensuring safety requires a little bit of inconvenience, but that's important. I just think that we do have a little bit more inconvenience than we need to on our residents for this issue right now. So it can and probably should be explored.
Okay. You were one of the people who wanted this in the agenda, so
No,
here you go.
follow up to that. I think we should sort of have a next step with DPW to understand. So, I grew up in Arlington, and if you had a guest visiting, you called and you said, "I've got someone parked on my street overnight. Can you not ticket them?" And they'd say, "Sure, thanks for letting us know." And I called one time after we moved here, and they were like, "We don't do that." And also, you live on a small street, so we're probably not going to drive down your street. Don't worry about it. So I think that, enforcement tends to go towards heavier trafficked streets, as well as possibly when neighbors call and say there's cars on the street that shouldn't be parked on the street right now. So I think that's something to consider, because then Arlington then moved to, well, you can have a municipal sticker and you can park in the school parking lot until 7 a.m. And not just actually in the wintertime, but I think all year long. You can park here overnight with a sticker if you don't have a parking spot. And, knowing that, the Jenks for snow emergencies is pretty far for a lot of people.
And not that big.
Yeah, not that big. Are there opportunities, and working with DPW to say, can we have people park in Morocco lot, or I guess there's not really parking at Lincoln.
No.
But that's close to, but like,
that's close to Jenks.
Close to Jenks.
Yeah.
Are there kind of other town lots that DPW would be comfortable with? People can park here until X time in the morning, and then maybe, snow emergencies remain an exception. But I think there's probably some more flexibility and opportunity to start to alleviate the concerns of people who need to park on street without getting in the way of the concerns of DPW for, we don't know if it's going to be icy, and it might not be a snow emergency, but we don't know if there's going to be some black ice or a flash freeze that we're not expecting. So something that can kind of thread the needle a little bit to start.
Okay. All right, so we're 5 minutes in. We can wrap it up maybe soon. So some thoughts on, we can definitely do some follow-up with DPW and police around, access, public safety, snowplow. Definitely, I think, schools parking lots or at Virginia parking lot, we're going to have, Waterfield, there will be parking for residents at some point at Waterfield, but I mean, if there's overflow, if there's still people living there, could the, behind the middle school, could that be an option? Could Aberjona lot be an option for overnight? But they need to be taken out at a certain point because we want commuters to use it too. So what other assets do we have? In North Main Street, I mean, we've talked about, I feel like Paris, you and I had this conversation, Creative Corner, the preschool has a massive parking lot from what was an old church. Could a developer on North Main Street, I'm not saying the town needs to be in the lease business, but could a developer say, hey, can I grab 30 spots from you and let my new residents walk a block and a half and they can park there? Like, what else? Because
after 5 p.m. when the school's closed. So it's
or even after 5, or even just overnight. What are some other assets? That for North Main Street, there's no school right there. There's Lynch, which isn't exactly right at North Main.
No.
And as development pushes from the CBD up North Main Street, they're going to need to have a place to put some of those cars. And to Anthea's point, Jenks isn't, it's not terribly convenient beyond this immediate area, and it's also, I'm sure, rather full rather quickly. So what other assets do we have in town? And how, I mean, Boston, it was, you park in any school until 7 o'clock.
Yeah,
so.
it's the mirror image idea. Yeah, that's super common here and in other states, right?
Yes.
And not just in places like Arlington or Winchester that are close in suburbs, not just in the cities.
Yes.
Like in Westchester County, New York, a lot of the towns do that at 5:30 or 6 o'clock until the morning. You can park.
Yep.
And you have to move.
Okay. So other thoughts before we wrap it up?
I hate to operate on rumors, but I've heard rumors that the police enforce the overnight ban when people call and they say, hey, there's a bunch of cars out here, come ticket them. Does the police have to, do they have to respond to that? We suggest that maybe they don't, and we save enforcement for when it's really important.
Could have that conversation, for sure.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
What's the it sounded like the three of you, maybe even all four of you, were in agreement on this. What's the proposal here? Is it to move back the time this is effective?
We don't have a proposal yet.
Yeah.
I think we want to talk to DPW before we push it back. I think Mike's point, no, November it starts and there's not a lot of snow. And, if we said if it's December or January, but let's just even look at weather patterns or plowing or overtime or salt events. So before we actually push the start time into December, I want to talk to DPW and see if we had to go out with plows and sand a bunch of December times.
It doesn't work for anyone in the sense that I think with the selective enforcement, then when we're trying to plow, there's still cars on the street that get plowed around and somewhat in, right?
Correct.
And so that's not helping anybody either. So, and fire as well, right? So that's another,
Yes.
it's police, fire, DPW are the ones I think for staff to.
So I would say, Paris, we have some
they can
ideas.
explore a snow zone signage. I mean, that's certainly where I used to live in the city of Chicago. There's signs that say snow zone 2 inches or more. You can't park overnight and into the morning, and otherwise you can even. So it's not time based. It's actually
Snow-based.
Precipitation based. Yeah.
So I think we're just spitballing. I don't think we have a firm idea, but I took some notes, and we can follow up with DPW, and we can circle back maybe at our next meeting and see if we want to coalesce around some recommendations. If you have any questions that you want to make sure we ask police or DPW, can you maybe send them into Patty and to Steve, and we'll follow up on that.
There was a resident who did a pretty thorough report.
Yep.
Yeah, it was Jeremy Elliott.
Jeremy,
I think. Yeah.
Probably find that again. We don't think Paris is saying it.
Yep. Sure. we
So
can
yeah,
find
so I think we didn't kind of put out a whole ask. This was just kind of the initial conversation just to get.
Do we even want to kick the tires on this? Do we want to revisit it? Was really the ask, and it seems like we do. So let's just try to make some progress. Okay. 9 minutes and like 25 seconds. Well done. Last item
Just
is.
one more thing. No, I'm kidding.
You're kidding. Select board update, committee updates. Audit committee is meeting in December 9th, I believe it is. If someone wants to live fact check me, they certainly can. Oh, Bill, by the way, Lynch Solar did get hooked up, the transformer, on November 3rd. AFPBC got back to me during the meeting.
Wonderful.
So that's done.
Thank you to them.
I'm handing out a calendar here.
And does that mean does that fit our budgeting for the power?
It should have. We had budgeted, I think, not quite a half a year, and if we're actually hooked up after 2 full months of school, I mean, I could check with Stacy, but we were operational September, October
Great.
without solar. So the plan was Monday night, the 3rd, and Jane Nardone confirmed it did. So I would think we can check. But there was, the concern on energy was, even though we'd budgeted maybe a quarter's worth of energy, that's one large bucket of sort of municipal energy that even if it ran over by $12,000 in the grand scheme of energy costs, comptroller wasn't too concerned that we need to do like reserve fund or town meeting because she thought we'd have some savings elsewhere. So I bet we hit it pretty much spot on, but if we didn't, the comptroller wasn't too concerned.
That's something to brag about.
Yeah. So those are my updates. Not that I'm on the Eversource transformer update, but there you have it. Anything from Fields or Capital or Cable?
No, you saw the Fields presentation at town meeting from Michael Crane, and no meeting since then.
Okay.
Yeah, capital.
And Mike, the trust, I know we just,
Yeah,
160
we're
Forest.
meeting, I think, tomorrow with the trust as well, so I think everybody's pretty excited about moving forward with that project, and so we'll be meeting again with Russ Tanner, who is going to be the kind of facilitator of the whole process, so who does quite a bit of work in Lexington and surrounding communities.
So just before we move on to state of the town, just, thinking about the parallel with Nick and Rec, and we had the trust give a work plan, who might develop it. It's now in their care and control. Do we want to just say thank you and go execute? Does the select board want to have any more status from the trust? I mean, we asked them to sort of deliver what they did and give us a plan, and we would try to give it back to them at fall town meeting. Do we have any more? Do we close the loop with them in any way?
We can certainly, kind
Ask
of
for a
quarterly
memo or
have like
something?
an update. I think it's at this point still,
It's still very early in
still
the
very
stages.
early. Yeah, certainly we can.
Okay, so maybe in the first quarter, we can ask
Yeah.
Marty for an update, because maybe there's going to be some need for like DPW support or engineering support or something around, who knows, if there's any site work or something that they might need some town
Yeah,
support
and I think
on.
the trust has talked about this being a community project as well, and so getting volunteers involved as well as,
Okay.
mobilizing a general contractor and things like that. So, I mean, ultimately, we've got to put out an RFP and we've got to,
Yes.
move through it that way. So we're a ways away from, swinging hammers.
Agreed, okay. So, okay, Paris, take it away.
Yeah, and I do want to flag climate action. They had sent us an email.
Do you want to start with that then, or,
If it's quick, sure.
okay?
I mean, I'm just flagging it. I actually don't think we have a liaison to climate action, but Rick sent us all an email. So he had asked us.
Isn't Mike
It's
liaison?
it's me, yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yep, so.
It's not on the list, so, okay. So he had sent us an email at 12 on Friday, asking us to write a letter to the delegation about this pending legislation on climate change and energy programs. I'm happy to give my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm supportive of doing this. I thought focusing as a select board, I get queasy about the idea of us weighing in on legislation or political topics that don't concern us. So I thought that while I agree with all of it, the first, second, and third bullets, first, second, and fourth bullets would be the right ones. So just sort of say we're concerned about this bill because it would cost our town money, the $600,000, the $594 for Lynch, and also the decarb money we're counting on, and then it would make it harder for us to implement our cap, the CAP, would be the right points to make. The third bullet, while I personally agree with it, I thought was more of a generic policy comment, less related to the town. So I was supportive of it pending that tweak.
How do people feel? I can't say I've read the actual law, but
I've read a lot about the law. I haven't read the law. I read the articles in Commonwealth Beacon and the Globe.
okay. Want to make a motion? Then we can have more discussion if we wish.
I would move that we endorse a letter to our four legislators who represent the town of Winchester, substantially similar to the draft letter Rick Eno provided to us, opposing House Bill 4744, focusing on the first, second, and fourth bullets that describe the impact on the town of Winchester.
Second.
And then, someone should just edit it for clarity and grammar and all that. Second.
It's first, second, and fourth bullets. Is that what you said?
I would just take the third one out. I personally agree with it. It just gets into the territory of us opining on policy, as opposed to opining on town priorities.
Just trying to get it straight, because if we're going to ask Patty or someone in the manager's office to draft it for us, we want to make sure we hit it right.
I can take a shot and circulate it, but whatever.
If Paris is going to take a shot, I mean, I don't. As long as it's pretty close to what's there, I mean, I don't think we need to necessarily.
No, they just time is of the essence, right? They
Yeah.
want to have it in their hands by Wednesday. So if you want to take the lead on it, Paris, and then I'll circle back with, I'll give Patty a heads up in the morning, and then we could always just,
Want to
e-sign it, docu-sign it,
Or
Sign it.
we can
Sign on.
and understand where we're sending it to.
put it on letterhead. It's going
I think they
to
said
our
before,
delegation,
yeah.
so.
All of them? Okay, yeah, we'll put on letterhead, yes.
Lewis, Pat Jalen, Mike
Senator
Day,
Lewis,
myself,
Jalen,
Paula.
Dan,
And Chicolo, okay. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Paris, for jumping on that. Okay, now,
And then state of the town. So I know it's late, so this should be quick. So everyone has the calendar in front of them. So I wanted to give people a clear view from now through mid-February, when we have to transmit, the deadline to transmit a final figure to the clerk is February 14th. So if we, and Mary Ellen has given us the information, that's really the second half of this memo. So where we are sort of marrying up the planning effort and the deadlines we have to hit for a March 21st election, which is what she's presently planning. We have today, we're obviously reviewing the calendar. We had an initial review of the municipal asks with Steve. That was Michelle and myself today. We need to keep doing that. And I think that there was a bunch of questions we had coming out of that, because that was really the document. Because I'm going to hone in on the 1117 and the 12-1. That was really the document that our previous town manager, Beth, had sent to all the departments. People had come back with a bunch of asks. Members of State of the Town went out then and talked to various departments. So most of the people at the stable did one, and then we had a bunch of the at-large members, the FinCom members, do others. It was largely us, FinCom, and at-large members who did these conversations. And we have that all back now. But we need to put it in a way that's digestible for this board, because our town manager Steve is developing a budget for FY27. That's a 3-year view, so it's 27, 28, and 29, and it has additional asks in it, some of which may be meritorious, some of which we may choose to not support. But we need to create sort of a digestible document for the select board to weigh in on. So that's between Michelle, myself, and Steve to continue to hammer that out. But that's an important conversation on December 1st. School committee has been having a lot of conversations about they're constantly, looking at their level services and then what they want to add and reshuffling that with their management. So I think it's important we have a similar conversation, even though it'll be less in depth. School committee is going to come in and do a fairly extensive presentation. We've blocked all of this Friday State of the Town meeting for that. If they need a second session, which I suspect they may, we would do that on the 5th. Beyond school and town needs, a lot of the other things either got closed out at State of the Town, at town meeting in this fall, particularly Workstream 5. I think residential exemption we've talked about, it's being deferred to the right time to implement it, which is next year, on the other side of an override. I think Workstream 6 we largely implemented ourselves via our select board policies. So with the rec board piece going through, with the Mystic School transfer going through, GIS going through at town meeting, the only other one really remaining besides municipal and school needs, which we're still working on, very important ones, is the transfer station piece, because we've had a lot of conversations about that at State of the Town. I think what we had talked about which I'll say to the group tonight, and if the group is supportive, I'll bring that on the first, is to create a staff-led committee to implement or to explore and then implement the ideas that that group has talked about, which are around commercial and pay-as-you-throw. So if the group is supportive of that idea, led by town manager, DPW, transfer station, and clerk, with 1 or 2 volunteers added on, I can work with the volunteers, Persette, Rachel, and Hafiz, to get something in front of this board for the next meeting. Because if we can get that one done, I think we're largely focused on municipal and schools, municipal needs and school needs for the next, call it, 3 weeks. And then if we have State of the Town have its sort of final meeting on the 12th, we can start to put together a summary report. And then from there, that would come to this body on the 5th of January, with a final draft report of the whole State of the Town work, as well as multiple override options that we would then start to discuss with the community. It wouldn't be 1 at that point. Last time they did 3, assuming this board wants to do the same thing, but we can do it however we want. We would want to call the special town meeting then as well. We have until late January, mid-January to do it. We might as well just do it early, which would occur, as everyone can see, on February 9th. And then once we have a deck and multiple override options, we would start to have a series of info sessions. We have to finalize the warrant, which would probably be very light, on the 19th. The only record vote that special town meeting could take beyond opening and adjourning would be if this body chooses to pursue capital via an exclusion. Because an exclusion requires town meeting, requires 4 members of this board, and it requires town meeting. An override, an operating override, if we choose to do capital via an operating override, it does not. And then we have to transmit the figure to the clerk by the 14th. So after the special town meeting, we would have, basically 5 days to get a number to the clerk. Either that, I thought maybe we'd meet that Wednesday or that Friday to sort of pick the final number. So that's mirroring the end of the process, which is, has some important deadlines, but hasn't been fleshed out, with the planning process between now and really the beginning of January to get everything settled out in the next, believe it or not, 6 weeks with 2 holidays in the middle.